one, right?
Yeah.
It just trickles down. And then wheels and tires.
I'm not even a major old schooler, but this should almost have been the baddest thing here.
We did. It's right there.
Oh, you did? Really?
Yeah.
What's your name, Mike?
Yes.
Mike, welcome. You're our new guest. You're on camera. Okay, guys, we are at SEMA. It's bustling. We're on the show floor, and our first stop had to be FiTech. Yeah. We're going to talk about this bitchin' wagon that you guys just brought out, 67. I've been hearing that it's a really rare. They only made like 12,000 of them.
That's what I've heard.
So if you're a wagon guy, I'm sure this is like your dream car right here. But on top of all that, it's got a lot of cool FiTech parts, and it's a full custom build that you guys just went hard on. You guys did everything to this thing, right?
Right, yep.
So tell me a little bit about it.
It's got an iron block LS, 6 liter, now it's a 6.2. It's got a carbon fiber LS1 intake manifold. That thing is a torque monster.
Okay.
Compared to some of our other manifolds, it's beating it by 40 or 50 foot-pounds in certain RPM ranges. So it's you feel that when you're driving.
So you guys spent a lot of time with the runner design, and then
getting the length right, the diameter right, and just making sure it all flows good. But it's a strong, lightweight manifold. You can throw tons of boost at that thing. It's carbon. It's not going to break.
And I see a throttle body on here.
This has our new for this year drive-by-wire. So our drive-by-wire system can work with LS3 throttle bodies, Cadillac pedals, but we also have our own throttle body and throttle pedal. So it'll be kind of compatible with pretty much everything.
Yeah. I love it. It looks like, for the LS stuff, I'm seeing all kinds of new products. You guys have a whole ecosystem for these LSs now. It's like one-stop shop, basically.
Yeah, including the ignition coils, plug wires, valve covers, oil pans, pretty much everything you can think of to make your LS kind of dressed up nice on the engine control side.
This is ideal because the LS engines, the blocks are coming from so many different places now. Heads, guys are speccing out their own combos. But for everything to put it all together now, it's like a one-stop shop. You guys hit your catalog and go
plug
hard.
it in, fit a few buttons, fire it up, and you're ready to go.
I love it. Yeah. So, and then all that good stuff, the package it's in. Tell me a little bit about like suspension, chassis. What'd you guys do to this thing?
So, actually, when we got the car, it had a lot of the suspension in it.
Okay.
It was a project car from Nostalgia Hot Rods, and
awesome.
we took it over, and he also helped finish it up.
So there was a lot of good foundation there then.
Yeah, so it was, it's painted all perfect, and a lot of the suspension was done, but we threw a good drivetrain in it, good brakes and wheels.
Okay.
They're American Racing. New wheel for them this year.
I've never seen these before.
Yeah, and it's got a Hughes 4L80 in it.
Okay.
Eddie Motorsports front drive, Eddie Motorsports hinges, Champion cooling radiator.
It's the best of the best.
Yeah, got some big Willwoods on it.
So I forgot to ask you, have you guys dynoed this yet?
Not yet.
Not yet? Nah, what are you thinking? What
we're
do you think?
For after SEMA.
Seat of the pants. What do you think on this thing?
I'm pretty sure it should be around 500 crank, so it's probably it's going to be around 420 at the wheels.
So it's got a good little cam in it, good
flowing heads. It's a little mild cam. It's a real good, nice cruiser. It's not too loud, not too ridiculous.
Well, it's a wagon still, right? You're going to have the family in the back.
Yeah, check out that TMI interior.
Yeah, that is
it's just
beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Like it's all full custom. Yeah, the suede, everything is just perfect.
A console and everything. Yep. Yeah, I love the color combination. You guys brought the white in from the roof into the interior.
Yeah, there's a lot of colorful thoughts in here, including, having the trim, CNC.
I saw that. This has your guys' logo in it. I bet it's hard to find wagon trim, so
yeah, it was pretty
CNC
hard. Yeah, Evan CNC, he's helped you guys out on a lot of stuff and helped us out here with this project.
Yeah, that really puts things over the top, all those little touches. And then when you have a rare car, sometimes it necessitates doing a lot of custom stuff.
Yeah, it was a kind of hard job to get all the window trims and getting all the little things just to hold windows in.
Some of the wagon specific stuff is hard to find,
rare.
right? Yeah.
So luckily we had a good friend that he knows a lot of stuff about these wagons. So when he showed up, he educated us really fast.
He's the guy.
Yeah, Andy's a Nova guy.
Yeah,
he's
you gotta have when you have a car, you gotta have the guy that knows this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for talking about it. I can't wait to see this thing in action. It sounds like after the show, you guys are gonna really get to play with it.
Yeah, we're gonna be having it around our shows for a couple years probably.
Okay.
But
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I think I'm probably the 1,000th person to pick this up today. Can confirm it is lighter. I feel like these
There's
need to
gotta
be
be
doing
just something. They gotta
something, you
be
know? Like,
tightened something.
so they've given me a wrench before, like, just hold this.
Just to
You
hold
look
this,
more
like-
natural holding something, yeah. Okay, guys, we are in the Holley booth with John McLeod.
Yep.
We are here to talk about a platform that we don't get to talk about too much, but I think in the future, it's gonna be on everybody's mind, a Fox body.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the build right off the bat. This is my first time seeing it, but it looks like you guys, the Holley Performance Brands, provides so many different brands to bolt parts onto this car that you can really make this a pretty capable performance machine.
That's what's fun about having 70 brands, and you pick the platform vehicle, and of course you're trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
And as you follow the age and the progression of it, obviously Fox bodies are coming.
It's funny you say that because, so I'm 38. And I had one of these right out of high school because it was all I could afford.
Yep.
You know, it was like the only V8 stick shift American muscle car. And now, guys in that age group, you know, they remember what they were playing with.
Sure.
And now it's like you can take them to a whole different level now.
You sure can. And what's nice about, obviously we made a lot of Fox bodies, and there's, you know, between the notchbacks, the hatchbacks, all the different models, and everybody had that favorite car. When the 5.0s came out, it was a big thing for some street racers back then. Yeah, living in our past and things that maybe we couldn't afford, we always go back to that.
Well, and like you said, the street racers, I look at the drag racing community, and it's like a Fox body is like a staple there. You know, it's hard to get away. And the platform is so diverse. You know, you can build them to handle well, you can build them to drag race well. What was kind of the focus when you guys were planning out this car?
Well, at Detroit Speed, we've always been known for our test vehicles. And we really like to engineer, develop, and use our components. And the only way to do it, Kyle Tucker, who started this and went through, and of course he loved racing and doing it, the best way to take your products is go out there and take them to their maximum. That way, if we have a failure, we know about it, we can go back to engineering. That's what started this platform. This is a DSE test car. And then Holley acquired Detroit Speed Engineering. So you just started to grow, so now we can test all the other components. As you can see from the list behind you, we have $60,000 worth of parts, all Holley parts into one car. It's what, 5 times the value of the car when it was new.
So, well, that's really cool though, because you started with something that was very suspension focused and oriented, and then you guys got to come in and put all these extra finishing touches and better parts on a car, and then test it. I'm sure. Have you guys had some fun seat time in this thing yet?
This got hundreds of runs on it. Well, it was developed and designed for road racing and autocross racing. Kyle's known for all of his autocross racing from at every level. So you can see it's a full cage car. And so safety stuff, you know, we own Simpson, Race Quip, so we can obviously use all that and we get to test that, but it was really about the suspension. We put our mini tubs in it, so then we also are known for our rear ends, and we have a new product called the FN988, which is taking a 9-inch rear end but using 8/8 gears. Makes it quieter, and so this was also a test bed for that as well.
That's a really unique product. I have been hearing about that because you've been seeing so many guys, you know, doing 8/8s. And they seem to hold up like you know, crazy amounts of power. So
well, the Holley race car that we put out on the strip was another Mustang, which is one of the new Mustangs on the 10-inch slicks. We put the FN988 in the race car and put it out on the track and tried to brake. We wanted to see where the level was. We have not broken one yet.
That speaks for itself right there. And I love that you said that you guys put it out on the track. I'm hearing that over and over again, and that's the best thing you can do. It's one thing to have a cool part that looks cool and fits, you know, but that's almost the bare minimum. You know, you put it out there, stress test it. And that's
we went a step further. Not only did we race it, but we did power tour with it. So we drove it on the whole power tour. We drag raced it, autocrossed it, then drove it home.
I love that. I love that. And that's the part of having one of these cars in your customer base. That's how they want to use a car. You know, it's meant to be driven, and if you're doing performance stuff, it's meant to be driven hard, right?
Well, and we'll announce at PRI, we're going to do the whole platform. This has our first production front piece in, and you'll see that. You'll see the shock towers are missing, so the struts are missing. So we're going to have 2 versions of this. And then we have the full rear end done, so we have a full suspension kit, and we'll debut it at PRI this year.
Cool. And is it based off kind of the 4-link pickup points that the car uses?
Correct. Just basically our quadrillink that we're known for. We put all of that development. We started on the Camaros, and then now we moved through all the pieces, and taking all that technology and the racing technology, putting it in a car like this again, so you can have it at home, you could drive it to Cars and Coffee, then go out and race and be absolutely competitive. We took it up to Kentucky for testing. We ended up winning the event and being the fastest Fox body there.
So what are your thoughts on this platform? You know, this is like a late, I guess they started in late 80s with this platform. How does it differ when you compare it to like the common 60s muscle cars that people were trying to upgrade to handle? You have a little bit different unibody. You probably have a lot more technology put in these cars right off the bat. Right. Is it easier to get them to handle? Yeah,
the wheelbase gives you a lot. I mean, the car can get around on you. Yeah. And you know, it's only as good as the driver. Yeah. But we really found that this car really stuck really well, and with the adjustability that we put in it with all the DSE parts, you can really dial it in to do it. And obviously, you can see a little bit. Yeah. These are the last tires we used. You saw we burned a set of tires off. But it's all of that going into it. We really found that this thing handled and stuck to the track, especially on some of the bigger, higher tracks where we did some bigger road race, road America type stuff. Yeah. We found that it really was comfortable and really planted itself. So I think there's a ton more potential left with this platform.
I like it. I like it. We were talking about the trend of cars of this era, you know, coming into their own now, and you see a lot of, you know, at SEMA, probably 10 years ago, it was probably really rare to see a Fox body or a G body or an IROC or something like that.
Look what the G bodies are doing.
G bodies are all over the place now, so I think it's really cool to see all the brands represented. And then Fox body's so iconic. I mean, it was kind of the forgotten Mustang for a little bit there, you know, a little bit. But now I think,
well, and again, they're affordable, and that, I mean, that's what is always doing. We really feel the S10 is going to be the next truck, which is the same platform as a G body. We really think, and we're developing stuff, and we'll make an announcement on S10s at PRI as well.
I like the sound of that, because same thing. That was the affordable truck. Every day, a lot of people's first car, and a V8,
lots of them everywhere.
A V8 fits in there.
Really nice LS swaps. All of that, and you can see a Holley. We've done all of those LS swaps for the S10, and again for the suspension, the front's basically done because it is a G-body front suspension, just a narrow sway bar.
And so you guys stayed Ford power plant this. I kind of like that. I kind of like that.
It kind of, it's nice, the Ford and the Ford thing. Ford Motorsport motor. It's a
363.
363 with the Tremec.
That's a pretty style combo.
It's a really good, solid platform. And we played with, did some pieces in bringing up with the whole Holley system, with the bigger throttle body, the better intake, and we found it really picked up in the middle at top end. It really helped breathe it a little bit. You see we did a little work on our air box and such, but it was amazing. You could feel the difference in this, and it even helped the motor more. Even though solid, easy driving, cold start's good on it. I mean, it's just easy.
I will say the small block Ford is first of all, they sound incredible. It's hard to beat the sound of a small block Ford, and they seem to make, like, they're just really rev happy. They seem to be fun to rev out. I know all the diehard Ford guys will tell you, oh, an LS is a modern Windsor. I know that's not exactly true.
We call the LS the easy button.
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. I mean, you get a lot, let's face it, you get a warranty, you get a lot of performance stuff like that, but it just doesn't belong in this car.
It doesn't belong in this car. This looks right to me, and it probably feels right. It sounds right, you know.
This one's rowdy.
Yeah, if you were around these cars, I mean, the sound of these cars is what was, like, you know, so enticing to a lot of people. You know, it was just.
Well, and we just launched a new, what we call a mid-mount, which is this front drive system, this accessory system, and it puts the package up really nice. You get a serpentine belt. You're not throwing belts off, and we just got really rowdy with this thing. I mean, we were racing hard. And it's so simple.
I like that too, because that is kind of that's a tough part about when you're doing a Ford swap, is the accessory drive system. You know, there's not as much support, but this is a really clean, tight package, and then obviously being supported by Holley, you know that parts are always going to be available, and it's engineered with proven parts. You know, I noticed like a Type 2 pump, you know, a sanding style compressor, you know, basically a one-wire type alternator.
And the really cool thing when we developed this, what we did, you can put the mechanical pump back on it. You look down here, you can see we have the access where you can put the mechanical pump. And then, so, I mean, again, affordability. Not everybody can put the full fuel system in, and what you can build to it. So you can have that, plug it off, and then go up.
I love it.
The whole thought process that is, how do I build the car? Not everybody can jump into 60 grand worth of stuff, so how can I build to it? Just like at Detroit Speed Engineering, we do our speed kits. We have different levels of speed kits, and then we jump right up to the quadra-link or the 4-bar. And you can progress with that too. As you get better at your driving, or your job's paying you better or whatever, you can build up to that.
I love that, because that is how cars get built. You know, the everyday car progresses, you know, and the common thing you always hear is they're never finished, right? So So that makes sense.
And what's really exciting for us, BFG does a ride and drive, and so we can put people in the passenger seat and then take them for a ride. And what we found out, there was 4 other Fox bodies at the race. They came, and every one of them wanted to go for a ride because we were the fastest car out there.
Yeah.
So they went out, and then so it sells parts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, lets you go out there, you're a driver, you know what it is, or you're a mechanic, you know how.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
How does a car stick that good? Mine won't do that.
Yeah, exactly. You get in a car faster than yours, you go home and you're on the internet.
Exactly.
You probably got your credit card in hand. And then I noticed there's a lot of chassis bracing kind of tied in here too.
Yeah, we did a full from front to back, and you'll see we got the halo, the full cage if you want to open the door.
So safety as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
We really wanted to tie the car together.
Okay.
And again, for the big tracks, when you're out road racing, high speeds, things of that nature, that's where it really comes in.
Yep.
And again, we want everybody safe. And we get to test all the safety kit. Of course, race equipped seats, Simpson, her shifter, all the parts, and then we have the 12.3-inch dash, the Holley dash in it, but Holley owns Classic Instruments, and we just developed, because it's a platform vehicle, we have brand new gauges, and so we'll put the gauges in that hook directly up to the Terminator. Okay.
So you have like some swappability there too, as far as like if a guy wants to have a stock dash and they'll have their Terminator screen, and then they want to switch to Classic Instruments, it all ties in.
Sure. And again, it's all the theme of your car.
Yeah.
What do you want? You want a full race car? Because I mean, let's face it, this is all race car.
You'll get the screen.
It doesn't, if you were traveling like when we did road tour, it's not the most comfortable car in the world.
Sure,
It is, but if you're going to go out and race, you want it safe. And you see we have full Halon system on board as well. So that's,
this is
driver safety.
all out, And AC.
Yep, all AC. AC works, heat, air, they're going through.
That's funny. You say full race car, but it has AC.
So, and the same thing, tubes chassis comes back, Halon's inside. Mini tubs, MSD relay kit. I mean,
amazing,
so we really used everything. You'll see some extra venting and things that was done. Flexibility, so anything with the pump you can get to it, work on it. So.
Yeah, I know like performance cars you see, like kind of race car things, you see almost like form follows function a lot of times on those types of cars. And so when you point out things like accessibility to pumps and serviceability, those are the things that race car guys know. But this is like borderline, this thing's really nice. This is almost like a show car as well. I mean, it's obviously a showcase of your guys' products. So.
Well, and again, proof's in the pudding. It's out on the track, it's being used, you can put your customers in it, take them for a ride. They see us doing it, and we're really finding it. We really find the weak points in all the parts because they're going to come out. And then we can make better parts, and then everybody gets happy, and we become a better company for it.
Well, they used to say, race on Sunday, sell on Monday, right?
You got it. Awesome. I like that you know that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you showing it to us. I'm sure there's like a lot more. I wish I could even get under the car, but it's great. He's going to take a ton of B-roll so we can see all the nice little details as we talk, but I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
When we're out to the track at any of the Good Guys events, any of those events, if you're there, swing in, we'll throw you in this thing and take you for a lap.
I'm going to jump in. I know like the memories of my Fox body, probably not anywhere what this is. You know, mine was like mostly stock, but I'd like to see what...
You could buy one again. And
I know, right? Relive my younger days.
You got it.
Are you buying one?
This is changing my decision. I don't know. It hurts me to see the prices because a nice, clean notchback like this is a little bit hard to find now.
Well, again, these are a little bit more desirable to go, and it's kind of why we picked it. We thought it was a little cool platform. But by the same token, they're all cool. I mean, but in their own way. People, you have following in different ways, but you can do the same thing to any of them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, It's just, I mean, this reminds me of like in California, all the CHP had these notchbacks for a long time, and I heard stories from some of those guys about having to kind of relearn how to drive in a car, even just a stock one. They were kind of like, okay, this is a better chassis than we're used to, these old 70s Polaris and all this stuff that they were driving,
Well, just remember all the police cars that were the Fox body police cars for so long. They did a bunch of undercover cars and did that just because of the street racing scene back then.
I remember as a kid, there was a poster of a Lamborghini, and it was being pulled over by a Fox body. So that kind of stuff, and that's why these cars are coming back in, because all those little things like that, they get burned into your brain,
Well, we all want to relive our youth. I mean, for me, that 68 Camaro, they had to have it. But as I got older, I mean, these were out on the streets. Remember your early Charger, the what was it, that 2.2 turbo Carroll Shelby Charger that they had.
Yeah.
I mean, these were everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget, because, you know, the glory days of the muscle car are that like late 60s, early 70s. And then things kind of slowed down because of the gas crisis.
Right.
And this is when they started coming back.
Yeah.
You know, and cars maybe didn't have the big horsepower numbers, but they were still performing. You know, they had a lot better
well, it didn't
chassis.
take long for somebody to start tweaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Put the 4-barrel on it. I mean, it's just started growing and growing. Now it's all coming back, and that's why it's fun.
Well, and it's like they say, like, what was in your high school parking lot, you know, and that's what you're probably you're gonna want to play with. All right, guys, we're here with Dustin from Nostalgia Hot Rods. Thank you for taking some time.
Absolutely.
We couldn't walk by this Corvette. It's a black Stingray.
Yes.
I don't know if there's anything cooler than that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. So right off the bat, Stingrays are just some of the best looking cars, and you guys didn't stray away too far from that, right? You guys kept it simple, clean.
Dude, this one, and we build a lot of Corvettes, right? We've last year we had 2 here. This year we have 2 here. Different each time, but man, with this one, we just wanted to keep it super clean and super crisp.
I love it.
Right, and that's what I feel we did. You know, we didn't veer away from the tonality of a '65 Corvette. Right, we kept the tonality there, dude, but just made it crisp, clean.
Yeah.
These HREs, 20s, 19s, the stance, the black is just.
Yeah, you guys nailed every detail. So like the shape of the car, you know, GM got it so right.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
But you guys just went above and beyond, like you said, all the little detail work, the stance of this car. What kind of chassis is this car?
So this is a Nostalgia Hot Rod chassis. We built this chassis in-house. So all of our Corvette stuff, the reason we started doing Corvette chassis was, you know, the roadster shops, the Art Morsons, which badass, right?
Yep.
But man, I don't have 13 to 14 months to wait for a chassis.
Right.
So I have a chassis table myself. We build chassis, so we just designed our own, and we can pop them out in 6 weeks.
Amazing.
You know, so we can then build the car. And of course, we could bang them out in 6 weeks if we were just a chassis fabricated shop. But with what we do, we're able to knock them out.
Well, and that's a no compromise solution too, right? You guys get to do everything the way you want it, and then the packaging. You know, these are not big cars, so there's a lot of insight. Like,
you know,
ahead of time planning that stuff.
And typically, man. And I think everybody in the 60s was short, right?
Like, yeah, I've noticed the steering wheel was flat originally. It was completely flat. Original steering wheel.
What we've done is we put our own floors in these cars, right? We built our own chassis for this car. So the packaging, right, is a big thing.
Yep.
So we actually moved the floors back to where we can move the seat further back.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a big thing. Like you said, everyone, I don't know if they were short, maybe race car drivers were like jockeys back then. But yeah, in this day and age, you get a sports car, it's okay if the car kind of fits you like a glove, but it does have to fit you, right?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, I love the interior. Obviously, there's a lot of little details too. I'm looking at flush mount glass. You guys have the gas cap dialed in. Everything's just tuned up and cleaned up, right?
We hand make the rockers, you know, we extend them, you know. We extend them about 1.5 inches, makes the car appear lower to the ground.
Yeah, visually, kind of sucks it down.
So, you know, you still have a great ride height to drive it.
Okay.
Yeah, the interior wise, you guys want to take a look in here?
Sure, yeah. Oh, man.
You know, just simple, right?
I can tell right away, though, those floors, like this car looks roomier, just opening it up in the factory.
So there are floors. We actually dive the bucket down another 2 inches to give you more feet room, more headroom.
Yep.
So again, like I said, these cars were tight from the factory. So the owner that owns a car is 6'1", so you know you gotta get them fit in there.
You're up against it with the ergonomics and with somebody that height.
Yeah,
you know,
people don't get it. Like the ergonomics of your feet and the way you sit in these cars is a big deal.
That's the difference of when you get a car that you actually want to go drive, right?
Yes, 100%. So yeah, we kept it simple. We did hand make all the interior, the dashboard. 100% handmade, the whole dash. It looks factory Corvette, but if you go find another one, the arches are a lot bigger. They don't come out as far. Of course, they don't have, you know, Rocket Frostgate tweeters mounted in them. Custom grill, of course.
That insert with the Stingray on it.
And
that's
the defroster vent, right?
So cool.
But yeah, floating armrests, you know, LED lighting. So yeah, now we try to make it a little bit more modern, and still keep that tonality of a C2.
And I love that because, like you said, like you look at it and it has the same vibe of a Corvette, right?
Yes.
Like it has the two coves, kind of that cockpit feel, and then still like dial gauges. You know, a lot of the trend is to go towards like a screen these days.
Yeah, Holley screen. And you know, man, I got 8 builds here, and 3 of them have Holley screens.
Yeah, it's a big trend.
Yeah, in this thing, he wanted to keep it simple. We ran the Dakota Digital VHX series gauges, still a modern gauge, still LED gauge, right?
Yeah.
But wanted needles.
It's classy.
So it's classy, dude.
Yeah.
And just, you know, the little all black with a little bit of chrome here and there isn't a bad touch. Because as you know, these cars are full of chrome, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's, that the inside, it turned out amazing. Right? The
and
little
this
bit
is
of yellow
like,
touches.
This is like the deepest black I've seen. So it's so black that I've seen other people looking at it, and anything it reflects, they think it's kind of that color.
Yeah, they're like,
you know, the
is
lighting
it purple?
in,
Is it yellow? I'm like,
the lighting
no,
in
it's
here.
black.
Yeah, that's how you know it's so pure.
Yeah, I look up, I'm like, you see those purple, yellow lights? That's why it looks like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is House of Colors, their new line, Jet Black. It is ridiculously black.
It's amazing.
Right? So it looks amazing. A lot of blocking, a lot of sanding to get the car as flat as it is.
And it's a glass car.
And glass
are you still itchy or?
Yeah, right. Dude, we build so many Corvettes. I don't even think the fucking glass bothers me anymore, to be honest.
It's like,
you know,
it's a part of you now.
I fucking cutting all over me. Like, yeah, fuck it. Just keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it keeps you awake.
Yeah, my lungs are full of it. It's good. But yeah, man, the car turned out good. We power plant LS7 427 titanium rod motor. So GM built a hypo LS7 427.
Okay.
It was a 650 horse motor from the factory.
Okay.
Right? They didn't make very many of them, and I got one.
Okay.
And we threw it in this thing.
So is this kind of what came in like the Z28s? That they were wet sump in most of those cars, right?
Yeah, there was
or dry sump. Some of them.
They were dry sump cars, but this is a wet sump setup. But it's a, like I said, factory 650 horse 427. I mean, you can't beat it.
Naturally aspirated.
And it's snappy. FiTech fuel injection on it. They did a fucking great job building that LS7 intake for me.
That's amazing.
Because they typically don't make an LS7 intake because there's not a whole lot of people that run LS7s.
No.
Right?
No.
Sure, a lot of people run 427s, but they take an LS3 or a stroke. I got plenty of those. But yeah, this is a factory LS7 427. And Tremec TVD6 Magnum.
Super cool. I mean, that just like when you a Corvette and a 427, it's like peanut butter and jelly, right?
That's why we did it. It was a 427 car.
Amazing.
Right? So,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was a big block 427 car. So we were like, we got to go back with a 427.
Yeah.
So and just the color combos, the mattes, the glosses, the flush mount, the modern, you know, big Willwoods, HREs.
I love it when a car's all black, like you said, like the satin stuff, the textures, that's what you get to play with, right? To make the car kind of have more dimension, more depth to it. Yeah, you guys nailed it with that. It's easy to paint a car black and put all the chrome back on it, and you know. Doing this, man, and picking the right combinations is tough because a little here, a little there could be too much. Yeah. So I think everything on this thing turned out amazing, man. It's so cohesive too. Just the little touches, like you said, the calipers and the stitching. It ties it all together, but it's not overwhelming. You know, it's just very little yellow. And when the owner called me, he's like, "I want it simple, man." I said, "Dude, let's do the gloss black with the matte black, but man, let's add one more color." Yeah. He sends me a picture of one of his Ferraris, and he's like, "I like this yellow." I said, "Perfect." I said, "I'll order the calipers the yellow." I said, "I'll match the stitch to the yellow." And just look, one little stitch in the door line, right? Done. Couple in the seat, done. You know, and because we're able in-house, and we do all this in-house, right? So body, paint, interior, chassis fab, all the stuff. We also have a laser machine that we're able to cut plastics and engrave. So you got your Stingray there, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of yellow in the back Stingray. So man, we just try to keep it clean. So tell me about like something on this car that nobody's asked you about that's kind of one of your favorite little touches, because you did a lot of Corvettes. Yeah, a lot. So they're all different, right? Dude, you know what? They are all different. God, I've done so many Corvettes, and I'll tell you, you can take this door off of this Corvette and onto another Corvette, it ain't gonna fit. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's that car. And it's that car. Yeah. You know. And it's funny, they had two factories building these back in the '60s, and you could tell like you had
I don't know which factory it is, but one was better than the other. I can tell you that.
Yeah. The booze was stronger at one.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I would say, dude, the one thing in this car that we've done different than any other, we kept the factory seats in the car.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I did the bolsters, like we ripped all the foam off, all the springs off, and built seats. But like
those seat frames.
But the frames, and then the you see the back, that's factory.
Okay, kind of
right?
the shape with the clamshell in the back.
Yeah, they had a clamshell in the back. All the other ones were putting Sparco carbons in, or we're putting some type of Recaro or something in that nature. And in this thing, we decided to keep the factory seats, and
that's awesome.
I actually like it better.
Yeah.
You know? And
well, they're designed to fit in that space.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and it just works.
Yeah, proportion wise, they're perfect.
Yeah, and I would say the dash too, because we do a lot of the full carbon dashes. I got a 63 here that's got a full carbon, which I love it. But this dash, like you said, that cockpit feel with the smaller coves instead of like the big coves.
Yeah.
I would say between those two things, man, that's
cool.
And just this color. This guy, my other one's black, but this black is just ridiculous.
This car, so it's really hard to build a car that kind of captures your attention at first and then draws you in. And this car does that. It draws you in and then you start noticing all little things. Yeah. You'd almost have to have a stock one next to it to see the dash and stuff like that.
Yeah,
all the differences.
To see all the little differences.
Yeah, that's hard to do. That's hard to keep it like the soul of the car, but 100%. Everything's just better. Everything's dialed.
Yeah, you're just refining. This car, instead of going wild like on my other builds, this car is just refined.
Yeah.
That's how Chevy should have done it in the 60s, right?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like you're doing what we know now to a car that they did their best back then, But and I bet performance-wise, this thing is just insane.
Oh, it's ridiculous. They turned $7,000 that, So
and it probably doesn't weigh too much.
Probably 2,200 all in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
They're a light car. They're a full fiberglass body.
Right. Yeah.
And then you have a LS7 that doesn't weigh shit, titanium rod. So yeah, man.
This is so cool.
Stopping power is great. And you know what? Look, a lot of guys, right? We build these high-end cars, and fucking wheels, right? Wheels will make or break a car.
Sure, yeah.
And when you get a customer that's like, I want to put HREs on it, you're like, okay, you know what I mean?
Like,
winning,
say no more.
Winning. So you order a set of composite barrel HREs,
that's
dude.
That's insane.
And it just makes all the difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a car that, like, with the wrong wheels, this is still an amazing car, but it's not going to draw you in. It'll be missing that extra.
Yeah, and the HREs did it, man. Like, I just, HRE, look, Forge Line, love them. I have them on a lot of cars. Budnick Will, they build me a lot of custom one-off billet stuff. EVOD builds me a lot of stuff. But man, an HRE on a classic sports car.
Well, and it's associated with like kind of exotic car,
Yeah.
So like once
100%.
you build a car that reaches that level of refinement, it fits right in.
Yeah. So I love the stance. Just overall, an awesome car.
It's crazy, man. This is every Corvette, like you said, it was original big block car, so I'm sure there's some people that are pissed, but if you know what you're looking at and the time that went in and how perfect this car is, man, there's nothing to be mad at. This is way better.
And look, I love a big block Corvette for sure, right? But
it's like a never meet your heroes type car when you drive an original one.
100%. You're like, you get in that original big block fucking 67, and you're like, just, this sucks. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This thing is like driving a fucking Cadillac, you know? So
perfect.
Overall, man, I think this car came out great. The flush mount glass is just amazing.
Yeah.
Carmen AM hot rod glass.
Okay.
She did the glass in this, did a glass in the Chevelle over there. She had the other 63 split window. She makes a good product, man.
It's such a hard thing to do with the flash mount, but the roof on this car really lends itself
perfect,
to that.
Man. You know what I mean? It just blends in, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're back with Dustin. Another one of the cars that he brought, that he built, debuting here.
Yes.
So another Chevy. This one's like breaking the internet. It's going to be hard to even film this with the crowd around it, but that's a good thing, right? It's good for business, right? With rightfully so, though. It's obviously 70 Chevelle, bitchin' car to start with. You just took it to the next level. There's a million things that you did to this car, I'm sure, in your brain.
There is, man. I mean, yes, based, of course, it's a 1970 Chevelle, but man, from a full custom chassis that
it lays out.
Lays frame.
So that the big thing, the presence of this car when it's laid out, you know?
That was the whole thing, right? Like a big body Chevelle that lays on the ground.
Yeah.
I only know of one other one, and it's not done yet. It's still working on it. But I originally designed the car kind of like I did the Roadrunner, right? 24s on the rear, 22s on the front.
Okay.
But I decided to change up, and I went to a 2019 combo kind of at the end of the build.
Okay.
I didn't want that crazy huge wheel vibe. It is designed to do it, but
yeah, that could overwhelm the car, right?
And I put them on there, and I was like, oof. So I, went back down to a 2019 combo, and I'm sorry,
20s in the back, 19s in the front.
20s in the back, 19s in the front.
Okay.
But yeah, so man, I mean the roof's chopped 3/8.
Is this?
People can't even tell.
3/8 of an inch.
3 inches, dude.
Yeah, because
I took 3/8 out of the nose. That's it.
Like I'm not a tall guy, but I've never walked up to a Chevelle and it's right here on me. You know? That's crazy.
Laying on the ground, but yeah, we chopped the roof 3/8 of an inch. We extended the rockers about an inch and a half.
Okay, bring it visually down, but tuck up your chassis up in there.
Of course, that means you got to extend the front fender, and then that means you got to build a front splitter, and then the rear. I extended the rear rocker 2 to 1. Right,
down under that body line, but on a wedge?
On a wedge.
Okay.
And that allowed me to run the exhaust through the quarter. But everybody's like, oh man, I love how you did that. But man, to run that exhaust right there was tough. So this thing's got a 38-gallon fuel cell.
Yeah, and then there's a lot going on back here. You can see it. Like you have to cover up big wheel tubs, suspension.
Yes. Yeah. So the exhaust runs through the gas tank.
Oh, wow.
We notched out the gas tank for the exhaust to run through, right? Notched the chassis to get the exhaust back here. The cove that we built for the exhaust to sit in was like a huge thing when I was first doing it. Like, man, how's that go? You know what I mean?
I mean, it looks like it's supposed to be there,
right?
Yeah.
So, as far as in the back, it's covering up big wheel tubs, suspension, amplifiers, subwoofers. And we decided to do a rear seat delete in this thing because let's get real. Right? Like a car like this, it's just you and your buddy, you and your wife. Whatever. You're not putting friends in the back and taking it to the grocery store. You know what I mean?
No.
So
not with something that sits like this. You know.
So we decided to do a rear seat delete and followed up with that denim blue. Bronze stitch.
So the color combo, blue on blue.
Blue on blue.
Yeah, that is killer.
But like two crazy variations of blue, right? So this is like a milky gray-y blue, if you will, right? That
you would never think that color is going to look good on a 70 Chevelle.
Dude, it was bold. But everybody's like, you sure this is what you
looks
want to do?
incredible.
Like, you know what?
It looks incredible.
That's it. So, and then to put bronze on top of a blue on blue car is
well, I mean, I'm a sucker for a blue interior, but there's not too many exterior colors that look good with it. You know, it's hard to do. Mostly non-colors look good with a blue interior.
For sure.
White, silver, black, and then the floors. Obviously, all custom floor pan.
Full custom floor pan. I mean, actually, every panel on the car has been worked on. There's not one panel on the car that we were just like, you know what, let's leave it. Change the roof, change the quarters, added the rear spoiler. Tuck bumpers.
All the panel fitment is perfect. The spoiler's integrated. Yeah, this is just crazy. And it's still a 70 Chevelle, like the shape of the taillights. It's still that.
I didn't want to take away from the tonality of the 70 Chevelle, but I wanted to make it to where people are like, hey, it's a 70, but what's done?
Right.
It's it's wild and it's sleek,
Right.
So
it's very modern feeling. It's almost like if they were to build a new one, could they do it this cool? They probably wouldn't be able to do this cool, right? Because this thing, power plant wise, the name of this is Whipple, right?
Okay. And the reason everybody's like, why'd you call it Whipple? Well, when we were building the car, right, and the motor's chilling over in the corner and chassis, they're like, what are you putting in that thing? I'm like, oh, dude, it's a WhippleD, 427.
It's WhippleD.
Right, it's WhippleD, man. And that's kind of where the name came from. So, but yeah, it's a stroked dart block, LS9 heads.
427.
427, 2.9 WhippleD. And it's a runner, man. Is it capable of 1,000? Yes.
Yeah.
Will we push it that hard? Probably.
Maybe on a dyno, but on the street, like obviously the chassis is all working great and stuff, but you know, a car like this, what are you going for? Like you're going for 1/10 at a drag strip? Not really, you know.
We're doing burnouts.
This is a bragging rights car. Do a burnout. Tell your buddies that it's got 1,000 horsepower.
So we decided interior-wise, run all Focal stereo clips.
Okay.
And as you guys know, Focal is just super high.
It's the best.
It's the best of the best, super high end. So yeah, I mean, vintage air, heated seats, power windows. You know,
custom dash. You guys made that whole dash.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It looks right at home in there.
Yeah, it's good, man.
I love the paint match, so the center of the wheel. You know, it's easy to put a polished, shiny billet wheel. It's hard to get a painted one to look that cool, right?
Yeah. So, and that we thought that was gonna be crazy. We're like, well, that blue on with the leather wrapped around it, man,
right?
It just worked,
right?
You know. And then we added some bronze features inside the car, AC vents, gauge cluster,
and you got all your controls in the console there.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, this thing looks great. And you guys do a killer job with lighting. I noticed that in all your builds.
Yeah.
Like the lighting on the interior, it sets it off, right? Like it's literally a mood. Like when you open a car.
You got to set the mood in this car, right? And in any car, you put lights in it, it just changes the whole.
It changes it, right? It levels up the car just that much more.
100%.
And you come upon a car like this, and you know it's something special. You just can't put your finger on it. But all those little touches, the lighting, it makes you feel like, oh my gosh, like you remember that car when you walk away.
100%.
Yeah. And you guys did flush mount glass.
Yeah, AM hot rod glass.
Perfect.
Harmons, you know, cutting, grinding, and making it fit, you know?
So something I was told, you didn't even tell me, but I was told that you're polishing and cutting inside before the glass is put in.
100%.
Like no surface is not an A surface.
No.
That's crazy.
Who told you that?
So I went to dinner with FiTech last night.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he was like, man, you don't understand. Like, you don't understand what you were looking at. I'm like, I looked at it for 30 minutes and it's probably like, I'm still not understanding. And then like, even like somebody walked up, they were touching, all this is like nickel brushed. Yeah, and they never fit like this, you know. This is just
dude, and that's the thing, right? It's all in the details. It's the small touches. It's the hundreds of hours you take when the car's done, right? You think it's done. It's that hundreds of hours it takes to do the fine detail to make the car what it is.
Well, and they were like 1970, you know.
Yeah.
Like they were mass producing these cars,
stamping them out. They fit like shit.
Yeah. So like, and you're gonna put one together by hand, you know, that's gonna be a whole different level, you know.
Yeah, and we had every panel off of the car. When we got the car, the quarters were rotted out. So, you know, cut the quarters off. Before you put the new quarters on, I thought, man, throw it through the plenishing hammer. Let's stretch these things up 3/4 of an inch to an inch. Did that. Needed a new roof skin.
Yeah, because these cars already kind of have that bulge.
They have a bulge.
So you just ran it out a little bit. And that you did it in front too?
In the front too.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able, I mean, the front tires at 305.
Well, and that adds to the presence of the car. You know, it's like you said, a big car laid out. Yeah, like Chevelles, you always see them like, they try to make them kind of handle. It's a big car, you know, you see them like set up to do handling stuff, but like when you see, this is a show car, you know? You see this thing laid out, it'll go. I'm sure this thing will perform like crazy.
And you know what's funny is that I only drove, I got 13 miles on it, but those 13 miles were hard miles. And it runs, it steers, it drives, you know, we got basically Speedway engineering. Sway bars front and rear. Right? So the spline style.
Race car stuff.
Big 2-inch sway bars front and rear. So it handles. It's on air ride technology, shock waves. We built the tri-link in the back. That's a Scott's Hot Rods front end underneath it. We
6-speed manual?
Yeah, Tremec TPD6.
Perfect.
All McLeod clutch and bell housing.
Yeah, you got to handle that power level because somebody is going to get in and get after it in this car.
You got to be able to drive it, right? So
I just love what you did with the textures, the color, the brushed, you know, just all that just works so good on this car. And the color scheme is like, I think that's what's drawing everyone in initially.
For sure.
But then the presence the car has and all the details you put in it, it doesn't leave you walking away like, oh, I came to see the color and I walked away like, not that cool of a car. Like, I came to see the color and I walked away like with my mind blown. Like the car is just insane.
That's what we try to do with all of our builds. mods, you know, make them loud in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
Right? And
well, like the Corvette that we looked at yesterday,
Yeah.
so classy, refined, you know,
Yeah.
all black car, right?
Yeah.
But it was mean. It was
Yes.
like a menacing car,
Yeah,
you know? And then this thing has that presence, but it's kind of like the color gives it a little softness, like
Yeah.
draws you in.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not so threatening, right?
Yeah.
But it's a badass
Yeah.
car. Like it's got all the right parts. It makes big power. It looks crazy. Budnick wheels. The bronze is just perfect. I think it goes great on this.
yeah, we did. So it's little hints of bronze wheels, bronze engine.
Yeah.
Couple little interior parts. The bronze stitch on the interior. Yeah, I think it all worked together.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. So what's something about this car compared to like most of the other Chevelles that they kind of let you loose and you were like, okay, I'm gonna try something different?
Oh man. So, you know, when we first started building this thing, of course, I think this happens with a lot of builds and a lot of builders out there. We started this thing and it wasn't supposed to be this,
okay,
right? It was supposed to be this easy build, you know.
They evolve, right?
Yeah,
they progress.
evolve, yeah, and it's like, hey, what do you think about putting a spoiler on it? And you're like, yeah.
Well, like
So-
someone like you, when someone asks you, can you do this?
Oh yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah,
that's like,
yeah, of course. You know?
So yeah, doing that spoiler on this thing, we actually did it a couple times because I didn't
Okay.
like the way it came out, and the way we rolled. I dropped the center of the spoiler and rolled the edges, and you know, the way we rolled it on the corner.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
It's a hard car.
Yeah.
It's a hard car to put.
When do you see a Chevelle with a spoiler? You know?
You don't.
That looks good.
Yeah, it looks good. There's only one other one here at the show, and it looks just like mine.
Yeah, okay.
Except it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Great minds.
yeah,
right?
mine was done first.
Yeah,
So-
not everybody works as fast.
Yeah, but yeah, man. I mean, that was one challenge of this thing. The rear spoiler, the quarters with the exhaust.
Yeah,
the way
such a cool touch.
Yeah, the way we did that was that, and we were almost in pain. And I'm like, I'm staring at it, and I'm like, oh, we're just gonna dump the exhaust, whatever. I'm staring at it, and I'm like, called my buddy Chris Horton, which renders all of my cars.
Okay.
I'm like, Chris, dude, you got to come up with this design for this exhaust. And he's like, what are you thinking? I'm like, dude, let's create a cove on the rear quarter and run the exhaust through it. And you know,
Yeah,
just did
I mean
it.
that's like kind of like coach built type stuff. You see the coves and stuff. That's like a very classic touch on like 30s cars sometimes.
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, it all worked out. The door handle, you know, the way we did the pockets.
It's just a one touch.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, like you'll see that on like a Corvette, but cleaner, simpler.
Yeah.
And then the engine bay. So everything, you guys do incredible sheet metal work. Every time I see one of your guys' engine bays, it's like, so there's a fine line between when you're looking at an engine and you're almost like, how does it run? Because you can't see any plumbing or any wiring. But I do like certain things, like you guys leave the master cylinder. Like that's a functioning part of the car, right?
Yeah.
So it's like not weird to see it there.
Yeah, no. You know, trying to keep it. How am I trying to say? Trying to keep it still Chevelle, right? On a Chevelle, you see the master cylinder on the front.
Right.
Sure. Could I put it underneath the dash? Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but I wanted to try to keep that, like, you know, and there's such a clean piece from Whipple.
Right.
Why not?
Right. Yeah.
So, and of course, hiding all the wires and hiding everything, and what I always say about these things is when they look fake, right, you know you did it right.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Like someone will walk up like, how does this run?
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing attached to it.
And it's crazy, like internet, right, social media. I've got, dude, it's AI. It's AI.
This car literally looks like a rendering.
That's right. It's a rendering.
When you film
it's not
it,
real. And I'm like, no, dude, it's real. Like, and then we just dropped a video yesterday night. Like, no, it's real. I'm out doing burnouts in it and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
but like you said, that's how you know you did it right, because like all the little details that people's eyes can't even process. You know?
Yeah.
They're like, well, why does it look like that? The grille, the way you just shape the front bumper, still a Chevelle, right?
Yeah,
but
still
way clean.
Still a Chevelle bumper, just with thousands of hours. Yeah, a couple hundred hours to build the front bumper.
I love it.
Yeah, dude. And everybody's like, oh, a couple hundred hours. Like, think about it, you work 40 hours in a week.
Right.
You get a few weeks wrapped up in a bumper.
Yeah.
Which 4 or 5 weeks in a bumper, you get 200-300 hours wrapped up in a bumper.
But you don't get these results unless you spend the time and you have the vision, and you know, like it's not enough to have talent, right?
Yeah,
you have to have taste.
And I try to step, you know, when the hood's closed, hood peeks past the grill a little bit.
Okay.
And then I try to step everything out. This lip stepped out over this, that lip. I just try to give it dimension,
Right.
if you will.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, even areas that people probably overlook, like that whole cowl. You know, like that is all completely smooth and clean. Like there's no Chevelles are not like that.
No,
you know?
no. The underside of the hood, dude. Like the underside of the hood looks like the top side of the hood, right? Like there's so much work and the functioning. I know, right? Dimple dies are like this big thing in the past, right?
Sure, yeah.
Remember that? A couple
Yeah,
years
well,
ago,
it's like race car stuff that trickles down. It goes in and out of style, right?
Yeah. So I decided to, you know, keep it clean though. Just a couple double dyes, get the heat out of the engine.
Right.
Because it's, you know, it's a big motor, so it creates heat. You know.
Oh, it looks good, and it adds just another layer of like texture dimension in there, and it's like subtle. You can see it, but you gotta like you have to be drawn in.
Yeah, you gotta look at it.
Yeah,
right?
you have to look at it.
The whole car just came out better than I ever anticipated it coming out. You know.
I mean, you made some bold choices, right? And it paid off.
Yeah, that was. Dude, I thought I was going to create some controversy for sure with the colors, you know?
I mean, you wouldn't think, if you just hold the color and then a 70 Chevelle and the two photos together, you're like, what am I doing here, you know?
A light blue, a dark blue, and a bronze on top of each other, like on a color palette, you're like, that's shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. No,
we put it all on here and it turned out good.
It's perfect. Well, and I think that's it's hard to do, right? Like every combo has been done, right? And so it's like hard to do something different in a different car that they're not expected to see it in.
And that's, dude, everybody always says when we're building ours, because I think you've seen a lot of our builds, you know, over the years, and we like to do things a bit different, like the Porsche we built over there.
Yeah.
You know, lava orange and blue.
Yeah,
you know, like.
And that whole community has like their set kind of formula that they always use. Yeah. So you bring someone like from another world in, you know, you just shake everything up and you're like, well, you can do whatever you want to these guys, you know?
I was telling the CTEK guys, like, what made you, pick these colors? And I'm like, well, anybody can build a black Chevelle or a red Chevelle.
It's like, it's not a gamble. You know it's going to look good in black, you know?
Yeah. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, but if we do this, I promise you this. We'll get more people at the booth, and the car will create controversy, good or bad.
Right, yeah.
You know,
it's a tension-grabbing car, but I think it all works. I don't think there's going to be really any merited negative attention on this car. You know?
I think the biggest thing I saw, like when we did the unveil, and dude, when we did the unveil, dude, there was like 3-4 people deep all the way around over there.
They're ready for this thing.
Not one person clapped, right? And like that's the negativity on the social media right now. I was like, nobody clapped for that.
Nobody's clapping.
I think like everybody was like.
Well, you have a different crowd at SEMA. They want to take a moment to appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like some sensational, like, oh, you did a backflip, like, hurrah. It's like I want to look at this car more now. I've been waiting to see it, you know?
Yeah. So the unveil was good, man. CTEK provides an awesome experience. They provide an awesome product, for one. I mean, these lights, I forgot to shut it down last night, so the stereo lights, everything has been on all freaking night.
Yeah, that's.
And the battery's still at 13.3 volts.
Yeah.
You know, so. And it's on a tiny little charger, you know? And their lithium ion setup is awesome to charge the batteries. It doesn't overcharge the battery. It only charges just enough and maintains it, keeps the battery cool. So the CTEK product is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the best cars, and they're running CTEK, and it's just anybody in the classic car world. You have an old car, they don't get driven every day usually, and you need something like that, why not use the best, right?
Yeah, you use the best.
Perfect, man.
Everything on this thing, I tried to do this.
And you still kept the original script.
Yeah, I did. I
just a throwback, but like subtle, black.
Of course, it's laser cut on our CNC machine.
Right, yeah. There's nothing original about it, but the font maybe.
The font. I used the font. I was like, I was going to go with the new font, right? I was like, let's go with the new font. And then I'm like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, let's put our logo on it, you know? But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with the old school.
I mean, so the car is so modern looking that you throw that on there and it's like, okay. It's like, you feel like you're at home again a little bit, you know?
I try to keep a little bit, you know?
I love it. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
Sorry to take you away from building some more custom cars, man. I know. Okay, guys, we're here with Lucky. He's got a really cool 68 Camaro, one of our favorite Camaros, really, in that first gen. And you did a lot of cool stuff to it, and it's for charity. So tell us a little bit about the car and the purpose for building it.
So there's a charity called Spread the Joy Foundation. You can look us up. We deliver boxes to hospitalized children. And the idea was to do an auction of a RestoMod car. RestoMods.com has been an inspiration for us. We've been watching Chris and Chris Sr. For a while now, and they've been giving us a lot of advice through the TV of what to find. And so when we found this car, it was a stock car. It was a Camaro SS. And then taking the advice from Chris, we modified it. We put RideTech suspension. We got help from the RideTech people. We put coilovers. We put Bose forged wheels. So you'll take a look at these. These are come from Zach at Bose Forge.
Yeah, beautiful.
We changed the seating inside to Sparco from the stock seating. The car has an LS3 crate engine. It's an automatic because we thought that would make it easier to sell.
Yeah.
The car also has a Ford 9-inch rear, and we've painted this color, which is a very unique color.
I love this color.
Yeah, and it's something you'll not see. And we've gotten at least 3,000 people to take pictures.
Yeah.
And what's so good about the color is that it's a mixture of a GM color called Son of a Gun and BMW Anthracite.
Okay.
And these guys here at Covalent Coating, they make one of the best ceramic coatings in the world. It's self-healing, and they coated this car for us, and they were the sponsor for the show.
Awesome.
So you can see how well this paint job for a classic car takes with this type of coating.
Yeah.
They're not going to find it in another company who can provide this. And so this is the first time we're in the show, and I hope you guys like the car. And we really wanted to get Chris's blessings on getting his view on the car so that we can show the world that, you know, even if you're an amateur, if you have the right teacher, you can make a great car. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You just have to have the right perseverance and intention.
Well, this is the perfect recipe too. You nailed the color, the whole theme of the car with the blacked out trim and everything. Very modern feeling, pro touring vibe almost. And then an LS engine, but a good LS engine. You know, LS3 is like, you know, you can have power adders and stuff to go full bore, but this is plenty of fun, I'm sure, in this car.
Oh yeah.
Ford 9-inch rear end. So you got the best of the best, and although you worked with a lot of good companies, they don't build themselves. So, you know, kudos to you for putting it together. You said something that I really like, that you had 3,000 miles on the car. So that means it's not just a pretty trailer queen.
Oh yeah.
You know, this thing goes out there and performs. Very cool.
And the shop in New Jersey, Limitless Auto Labs, helped us put together the car. And another shop in Florida called Realistic Auto, run by Sage Samuels, helped us, you know, and helped us also financially to put together this car so it made sense. And you can see it's a beautiful build, and it's something you can drive. So, and I've taken my kids to school in it, and you know, I see these guys driving their cars, and I've always been envious. But this is a dream that, you know, a lot of people don't understand. But thanks, Chris. You guys have been great. And
no, thank you for building this and doing it for a good cause. I mean, that's awesome. You're giving back to the community and to people in need, and following your passion. You're building something that was your dream. You get to enjoy it a little bit, and then someone else is going to get to enjoy it.
Until the next project.
There you go.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. All right, guys. Ringbrothers builds almost need no introduction. I'm here with Jim. Last year, we got to talk with Mike about Tusk. But you guys brought back another Mopar, another iconic car that they look pretty good right out of the box, a Cuda.
Yep.
But this one is anything but stock. Obviously, everything, there's so many custom touches on this car. There's a lot of little things that you probably have to have a factory one next to it to see how good this one really is. But immediately, obviously, the biggest thing, the color and the stance, that all stands out. Obviously, this is a Mopar inspired color, right?
It is. Somehow we got the guy to get on board with a pink car, but
yeah.
We actually did a bunch of spray outs and kept taking the white out of the original one. If you remember, the original color was a little more milky looking.
Right.
And so we did a few spray outs on it, kind of walked through the shop, and everybody chose the same one, which was this color here.
Okay.
If it had to be pink, it was going to be that.
Yeah. It's a deep, like rich pink.
Yeah. But as far as the drive line in it, it's actually a C6 Corvette with a transaxle in the rear,
oh, really?
Independent.
Okay, so you get a lot of that weight back into the car now.
Yep, it's all moved back.
Okay. That's a big deal.
Moved the front wheels ahead 1.5 inches, so we had to make new fenders for it because we wanted to pull the wheels forward. It just gives it a better stance.
The whole wheel opening, everything is
Yep,
better?
it's pulled forward.
Yep.
You know, it got the motor and the weight back a little bit by moving them wheels forward.
Okay.
The interior was all basically, you know, if you like a Cuda, you like the interior.
Right.
We really didn't want to get too far off of what it was. We did do Recaro seats in it to make,
Okay.
and then make them look Mopar, obviously with the stitching and stuff.
Well, the contrast of the pink on the white is so 70s.
Yeah.
You know, that's like you almost want to like get Don Johnson in there to drive this thing.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
A little fun fact about, you know, we had the car painted pink and it had a red eye in it.
Right. Yeah.
And we were just looking at it one day. I said to Mike, I said, man, we should, because we had already built all the valve covers, so they were done, and they said
really?
red eye.
Red eye.
And I said, Mike, man, we got to change that. We got to make new valve covers or something, because it's, you know, we got to say it's a
Can't
pink
miss
eye
that
now.
opportunity, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so we got to call it a pink eye, hence the name Infected for the car. But that's kind of how that came about.
Very cool. There's a lot of little things too. So like the actual shape of the car, I know you reproportioned the wheelbase a little bit and the fenders.
Yep.
Did you guys play with a lot of the other proportions? These cars have like such a presence from the factory, but they never sat low enough.
No,
You know?
and you know, obviously the extension of the rockers really gets that appearance to go. The rockers actually go all the way under the car.
Okay.
Typical Mopar front fender would be coming off the side of the fender and going under, and then the rocker would bump into it.
Yeah.
But we cut them off and ran the rocker right
Okay.
through the whole car.
Okay.
And then set the fenders on top of the rockers, which really cleans that lineup on the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, visually, that little touch even just makes the car just, from the profile, it's just so much better.
The car is slammed. I mean, it's at right eye. There's no bags. That's where it sits.
Okay.
That's where it runs.
And so Roadster Shop chassis?
It does have a Roadster Shop chassis in it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know about moving that to the transaxle. It makes sense in a car this size, you know?
Yeah. Obviously, there's no seat in the back anymore. It's two big giant wheel tubs with a place to throw a 12-pack.
And it's IRS back there too now too.
Yep,
So
it's
yeah,
all
I bet this
independent.
thing handles.
The rear quarters are kind of wrapped down all the way around the car in the rear and come in to meet the rear belly pan.
Okay.
Good place for the tires to sandblast the paint off.
I notice everything too, like the grille appears to be the stock shape, but dialed. Everything is perfect.
Yeah.
How did you guys produce this grille piece?
Well, we ended up, obviously these Mopars are a bunch of different pieces with the trim around them, and we had tigged them all together and then actually put them on. There were just so many parts, it just didn't look right.
Yeah.
So, and same way with the grille. The grille went in one piece, and typically the eyebrows are separate.
Right.
So
yeah, I noticed even the back window trim. You know, those never really fit that great.
No,
and
none
it looks
of
like the
that
stock
trim
profile.
Yep, none
but
of it.
all TIG welded, all
we
one piece.
welded it together and went in one spot, and that took a lot fitting back and forth to get that right.
I think like, you know, some of the trend you see is like the flush mount glass on everything.
Yeah.
But there is something about the trim on this car that just looks right. You know, it kind of keeps the soul of the car. And the car is very like, it gives off a vintage feel.
Yep.
But obviously all the finishes are really extremely high end.
You really got to stare at it. I mean, we've been off that cliff before where you know, if you like a 69 Camaro and you put some crazy grill in it, you don't know what it is. I mean, we learned that lesson a long time ago.
Yeah.
People like these cars for what they are. I think you can improve on them and clean them up, but they still got to look like what they were.
Right. Yeah, and these cars have their own unique characteristics. These cars have things on them, especially a Cuda, like the door handles. You know, those are like love it or hate it, right?
Yep.
So
that door handle, we didn't like the door locks in it, so we made new ones.
Okay.
So that got rid of the keyhole in it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know that there's certain little things on and a 70 Cuda is like a 1 year only for the grille.
Yeah.
It has the best tail lights of all the Cudas.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And I noticed like you guys kept the same style spoiler, but it's all dialed in. You know, it fits perfect.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like immediately when you guys unveiled this car, there's no questioning what it was, but it's almost even cooler that I have to come talk to you to ask all the little stuff that's been done to it.
And you know, the wheels, HRE did the wheels on it, and we wanted it to look like maybe it was an old Krieger from that era.
Oh, that five-spoke classic design, right? Yeah.
It fits the car well, I think.
Well, sometimes a design like that is timeless, right? And it's like things come full circle, but you know, modern manufacturing processes and HRE is going to be top of the line for the wheels. So, and then all the engine covers, everything's all dialed one off for this car. And I know you guys have a habit of when you build a car, sometimes those parts end up being able to be like production availability.
Yep.
Anything on this car that you guys are thinking about selling for a Cuda?
Not really. I mean, we have all the CAD for the valve covers. We could do that, but then you got to get into what they want on top, and that becomes. But a lot of this stuff is just built from scratch for this particular car.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to get a Gen 3 Hemi to look that good and that high end, you know.
There's a lot of stuff on them motors you need to cover up.
Yeah, there really is. Well, and it's all the plumbing too. Anytime it's supercharged now, it has another cooling system you add into the mix.
Yeah.
And packaging. I mean, you guys have everything so cleanly packaged, but I'm sure this is all like accessible and serviceable.
Yeah, we got a whole dumpster full of bad ideas.
And then I love your guys' hinges painted.
Yeah.
That's something, you know, like your guys' hinges, you see them everywhere. It's like a staple of the RestoMod community building a car. You know, you got to have the billet hinges. You guys make the best ones, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool to see them there, but like toned down, matching the car.
Yeah.
You know,
kind of go away.
Yeah, and it's similar. Like it kind of makes you feel like, you know, if you knew what these cars were new, you know, the hinges were painted.
Yeah.
But obviously, that's a lot higher quality material, and your guys' design.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. It sits
thank
right. The chin spoiler.
Yep.
All handmade, huh?
That's all handmade. Yep.
Yeah, even that mouth, that opening there.
Yep.
You know, a lot of times you'll see they had like provisions for a license plate or whatever. This is all just perfect.
Well, thank you.
And the way it fits and finishes, I know Mopars are never fit and finish
No.
cars to begin with, and a lot of little things on the Mopars, the doors, you know, when you close them, they rattle. The interior was like plasticky on those cars, so you guys just take it all to the next level. I really like to, you know, like the window trim, all those accents, you guys color matched it, but it's all Cuda-esque, but you guys just dial it all in, right?
Yeah, it's just time.
It's just time, and there's a cage in this car.
Full cage, yep.
It's tucked nice and clean, but safe.
Yep.
Yeah, so what kind of power level, is this just like
I think it's 820 or whatever
what you would get out of a Red Eye?
Yeah.
More than enough, basically?
It's plenty for this car.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, in a street car, I mean, anything at this power level, and like the way it's making the power, it's plenty to have fun.
Yeah, it's plenty.
And the pistol grip shifter, that's just the right shifter to put in this car, right?
Yeah, it has to have a pistol
It has
grip.
to have it, right?
We kind of redid it all in carbon handle, but we got a
if-
lot of time just on the shifter.
If it doesn't have it, people wonder like, why'd you miss that? You know?
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you guys knock it out of the park with the Mopars. Every time, you know, this is such a good body style. You see a lot of takes on it. And sometimes they go so far into like being unrecognizable. I really love the way you guys just take the soul of the car and make it high-end, modern manufacturing processes with like the way the grille is. Like this looks like what a concept car should look like with the grille, you know?
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the time. This thing's awesome. I wish I could see underneath it, but I'm sure there's probably some photos somewhere, huh?
There is. The bottom of the car looks better than the top.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is incredible.
I'm sure we can get you some photos of that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All good.
When
man.
we're all in one spot, then
that's the whole point of the show, right? That's it. All right, guys. We're here with Ryan from Ringbrothers.
What's going on?
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
And we're in front of probably the baddest G-body I've ever seen in my life.
Thank you very much.
So GNXs are coming into their own. You're starting to see people put serious work into them, serious money into them, but you almost never see the 6-cylinder still in them.
Right.
That's really cool about this car.
That was important to us.
Really? Okay. So talk about that, because this is a Kenny Delweiler.
Yeah, Kenny
engine?
Delweiler
Okay.
put this engine together.
Big name in the 6-cylinder world, right?
Yeah,
The GNX
legend,
world.
right? We were super excited to work with Kenny on this engine and to have his engine in this car. And actually, we spoke this morning a little bit, and he's stoked with the response that the car is getting. You know, some of the headlines out there on this car are. They all have the horsepower in that headline. It's 1,246, right?
Right, yeah.
1,246 horsepower on a V6 is incredible.
That's crazy. Yeah, out of V6.
Yeah, out of V6.
Yeah.
And, we can't start this thing up in here, of course, but I wish we could. Because it sounds nasty.
Just a unique sound to it, right?
It is. It's like no 6-cylinder I've ever heard in my life. It's just gnarly. And then you give it a little bit of throttle, and those turbos spool up, and the wastegate's open, and it just sounds so good.
Yeah, the response to there's a reason these things like have the legendary status, and it's because back in the day, these were some of the fastest things out there.
Right.
And so to keep up, a lot of guys, you see it, they'll V8 swap them, you know?
Yeah.
But you don't have to, This is making all the power.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, the package that it's in, So G-bodies have their struggles with the nose cone,
Sure.
you know, the plastic pieces, any 80s car really.
Right.
And GM on top of that. I'm seeing like none of those problems on this car and a lot of reshaping.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of stuff on here that looks way better than it did, but only slight differences.
Right.
Let's talk about like some of the key things you guys focused on when you were trying to
Right.
kind of clean up this car.
So number one, as you said, that front bumper, I mean, come on. You know, it's plastic, it fit like garbage. The gaps were enormous.
and it's old now, right?
It's,
I mean,
it's
40 years old.
Right, and it's square, and it just, you know, it was fine in the day. Nobody thought anything of it.
Sure.
But trying to put a modern spin on a classic,
Yeah.
that was the first thing that we decided had to be changed,
Yeah.
right? So first thing we did, this body line behind the headlight bucket there, normally that gets to here and it turns and goes perpendicular to the ground, goes straight down. And that's where that bumper would have started. What we did is that we kept this line going straight down at that same angle, so that we don't have that brake here, and then our bumper, of course, mounted to that. So we extended the front of the bumper.
So that brings that whole shape and that whole feel of the car forward that way.
Right. So we
that's awesome.
Yeah, we extended the fender there at that bottom, and then we built our bumper off of that.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Everything below the headlight buckets is aluminum. It's all sheet metal aluminum.
Okay. That's why it's so crisp and clean looking.
Right.
Yep.
Everything here down, there's no plastic anymore. It's all sheet metal aluminum. This is billet. We wanted to replicate that look of that rubber that they had on these. But again, modern vibe. You know, these went straight out and it came straight back. And we didn't want to.
So now it's nice and flush.
Right.
But it's still, you guys cut in a little piece there to kind of make it look that OE look.
Right. It's still removable. We get down here, you know, where those turn signals were.
Yep.
Now that's our air intake. So we got twin turbos on this. Of course, the big K&N filter attached to that P6266 precision turbo is sitting kind of right here.
Yeah. Okay.
So behind that is where that air intake is being fed.
So it's getting nice, clean, cold air from down low.
Right. Intercooler's getting fed here.
Okay.
You know, of course, on the original, that was just blocked off.
Yep.
Air dam, that's also aluminum. So there's no plastic from here down. No plastic whatsoever. All hand formed sheet metal aluminum. That was number one.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the first thing I noticed walking up on this car. You notice that this is just so clean and crisp.
Right.
Little things too, like a fluted lens still.
Yeah.
You know, like it's got that retro vibe. You know, it's easy to just put LED lights on everything, right?
Right. And these are the Holley. You know, the really, I mean, they're
like
super
the retro bright.
Yeah, retro bright. Thank you.
Yeah, but
Thank
still, like, you know, an 80s car, that's what you want to see, right? The fluted lens.
Right. Thought I had a table there behind me for a
You gotta
second.
give the hardware away.
Be able to drop this. So one of the things we did on the hood, it's the stock Grand National hood.
Okay.
But going with GM Cadillac CTSV.
Yep.
We wanted to get some of that heat out. We wanted carbon touches throughout this car.
I was going to ask about that next because I see it a little bit peppered in throughout the whole car, right?
Yeah. So the owner wanted some carbon, didn't want a ton of carbon, didn't know exactly where. Kind of left that to our discretion of like, you know, I'd like a little bit of touches. So, you know, on many of our cars, we've got a Cuda in our booth right now. There's touches of chrome.
Right.
So front bumper, door handle, rear bumper.
Yeah.
On this, we did the same with the carbon.
Okay.
In the front, in the middle, and in the back.
Perfect.
So, you know, everything's stock here except this vent, and then we added this detail here that follows these same
well, the
same
shapes
lines.
go so well with like that hard line, hard edge, you know, the shapes that are coming back around into style now. Like you said, Cadillac had that.
Right. One of the other cool things up under here, so we have a full cage in this car, but the body is still removable from the chassis. So what we've got is a tube clamp at the firewall. So this is all welded directly to the frame. But if you were to take the body off, you undo those tube clamps, and of course then you can separate, and everything inside the driver's compartment bolts onto the chassis.
That's incredible.
That.
Yeah, this whole section on these cars,
just ugly.
Yeah, it's ugly.
We wanted to cover up the wiper, so stock wiper motors in there.
Okay.
It's all hidden underneath all of that.
Okay.
Put a modern booster that's from like a 17 Challenger.
Okay.
And then you know, one of the other things that we needed to do was put a breather tank in this for this engine to breathe, right?
Yep.
And so that whole piece along that back bar, that's the breather tank.
Okay, so it's integrated into the bar.
Right. So off of each valve cover, we've got these fittings. They go up underneath, and those filters, of course, are letting it breathe. That's where that's all happening. You know, of course, we made all of everything under the hood, right?
Yeah.
The core sport cover. We made the intercooler. We got, you know, just a starter intercooler. We made the tanks, made it fit for us. Got with DeWitt's on the radiator, so the packaging was super important on this car.
Yeah.
There's so little room. You can see how we've got the tube on the radiator coming out. You got turbo and wastegate, you have to work around.
Yeah, as soon as you start adding turbos, the piping, the plumbing, the intercooler, all the packaging becomes a nightmare,
It becomes tough, And we developed a couple new products for this car specifically. One of them are these hood adjusters here, which also are poppers. So these G-bodies, they had that big spring right here. Well, guess where that lands? Right in the middle of my charge tube. So
it forced that innovation then.
Forced that innovation. Like, what are we going to do? And we figured that out. So we've actually got those on our Blazer too. There's a couple other vehicles that we just came out with them. And there's a couple vehicles here at SEMA that have those poppers on them, which made us really happy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I like about you guys is that, you know, you're doing these custom one-off builds, but some of those parts end up in your catalog, and another builder can use your guys' solution. You know, that's really cool.
That's our goal with every car we build, specifically ones that we've never built before. We've never done a Grand National. So anything we innovated for the Grand National, we wanted to do it in such a way that somebody else could use it. We didn't want to build this that it only would work on this particular one because we modified the hood or something like that. You know, we want to be able to have it work for us and also work on a stock Grand National, and that's you know, where those, there's a few other parts I'll show you that do the same thing. Moving back, if you want to get away from the engine a little bit, I mean,
I could look at that all day. I don't need to see
we can spend all day.
HREs, obviously, these kind of look like the M3 wheel, like the E36 M3 wheel, but they look perfect on this car.
Yeah, you know, if you think about what the stock Grand National wheels look like, and then you look at these, modern take,
it makes sense.
It makes sense. It works. This badge I want to talk about for a second because we had fun with this. So the name of the car is Invader. So we machined that in-house. Dual turbos, of course, you know, instead of this, you know, like the Grand National logo they had.
Just the one.
With the checkers and whatnot. But then if you look inside of these turbos, see those turbines? So we found CAD for the Precision 6266 turbos, scaled it down, and then 3D printed the turbines so they're an exact replica and they're mirrored in the badge, and then did an epoxy resin pour over it. So we had fun with that.
You went too far.
Right. These mirrors are more carbon fiber. So we're in the GenTech booth. They made these for us. I called up the guys at GenTech and we said, you know, hey, we got this Grand National. We don't know what we want to do with mirrors. What do you think?
This is the shape that everyone remembers seeing, right, on all these GM cars.
Yeah, we sent them one of the mirrors off this car, and they scanned it, modeled it, made a billet mold, and started laying some carbon. This is going to be a product that we're going to be selling through Ringbrothers. Be a carbon fiber mirror for the G bodies.
That's awesome. The other big thing on these cars, the interiors are usually terrible on these cars. Like, stuff's falling apart. It's plastically, it's rattly. This has that same vibe, but all premium materials, like even this floor covering. And I love that you come in, nice clean door sill. So everything feels like Grand National.
And that was the intent, you know, a modern take. And also, you know, the other thing the owner really wanted was it to feel like a race car. Not to feel like too smooth, too elegant, too RestoMod. They wanted it to feel like a race car, right? So the cage, you know, real kind of in your face with the door bar. You know, the 4-point harness, of course, the Recaros that we modified. Steve that does our interiors, he built the bolsters up. This actually was a Recaro that had the upper head area with the pull-throughs.
Yeah, because this shape is like what you would see like for the headrest.
Right. So we lopped that off, and then he just built those headrests. Stock console, stock dash, but everything got recovered. You know, recovered in leather. We had, I'll sneak by.
Just everything on this thing.
We had Dakota Digital build us a custom gauge cluster for this car. So Dakota Digital gauges. Digital in the center will be in big letters. That'll be your boost gauge. We've got to get that flipped through, and it's
well, they're all programmable. That's the nice thing about them. Is you can change the color, the center stack, all that good stuff.
So good. The roll bar, of course, goes right through the dash. And that was tricky. That was tricky for us because the way that those dashes are put together, like they're kind of a little bit of a bugger to get through there, right? So what we did is we actually made the top of the dash. It looks like a one piece, but it's removable. So the top flap part with like the airframing and design that comes out. And then the lower part can just come straight back.
Yeah, these cars, you know, they did have that like very 80s like block put together look, right? Yeah, so keeping all that, like, you know what you're in. It's just everything is like just way better.
Flush mounted the glass.
Flush mounted the glass, all this trim, like you guys always do. You guys always dial it all in. I wanted to talk about the color too.
Yeah.
Because
it's not black.
Yeah, it's not black.
It's
right?
It's a point of contention. It seems on the internet.
Is it? Okay.
You know, some people are loving it, and you know what? I'll be real honest with you. Some of the pictures out there, it doesn't do the color justice.
Okay.
Right? It's tough when you're inside.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the owner was adamant that they didn't want it black. They wanted it near black. They wanted a dark charcoal.
Yeah.
And you know, we are no strangers to controversy. And
well, we just talked about a pink car, so.
Yeah, right. You know, sometimes we upset the masses, and that's just fine because you know what, they're talking about it.
Well, yeah, and it's not their car.
Right.
You know?
Right. One other thing, you know, it's talking about a race car vibe. So if you notice, we have air jacks on this
Yeah,
car.
we were going to say you
Duco
can
air
actually
jacks,
get under his car, but
Yeah.
air jacks.
Yep, and that was the other thing the customer really wanted was air jacks. So we built in onboard system, that tank over there, that 10-pounder, that's nitrogen, 500 PSI, crack the valve, up she goes, 15.1 inches, and you can...
Fully serviceable.
Yeah, you know, you pull the tires off. And
so he plans on using this, playing with this car?
They're gonna go race it.
That's amazing. Yeah, so, okay, so these cars had a lot of shortcomings. We talked about the chassis, the interior, the exterior fit and finish. It's you guys are pretty far up against it when you start with a car that's like a, you know, 80s, 90s GM product.
Right.
You know, and a lot of this stuff is coming around. You see a lot of muscle cars where maybe there's not as much plastic. You guys can redo a lot of that stuff in metal, but now you're having to reimagine some of the materials. You're using carbon fiber. Right. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, you know, speaking of carbon, so you know, these cars had a spoiler.
Yep.
This is our take on the Grand National spoiler. So we laid it up, made 3D printed one and modified it, and then we used that to pull a mold. Right. That dip here matches the dip that we put in the air dam. We kind of like that vibe.
Yeah.
And this will bolt up in the stock location.
Yeah, okay.
So this will be a product to be able to find on Ringbrothers
That's awesome.
website down the road. Rear bumper, same treatment as the.
So this is all
front. It's all aluminum.
Aluminum.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and then you got this nice weave pattern throughout the car too that ties it all in.
Right.
And the cage comes all the way back here.
All the way as far back as we could go.
Yeah, this is definitely more race car than some of the other builds for sure.
Right. So it goes through and then it follows the sail panel, goes right up behind the back window and over top of that quarter window and ties in. You know, if you want, get down underneath.
Yeah.
We did something kind of trick.
Oh wow!
I really like so
closeout panel. Here.
Right, so exhaust comes through there.
Oh, okay.
You've got vents to help some of that heat come out.
Yep.
But you know, so we got to this point. We had built this bumper. The fuel tank's under here, of course.
Okay, yeah.
And we're laying under there, like, boy, you can just see all the way up. You can see all the way up to the taillights, right? It's kind of gross. So, like, let's do a belly pan on this thing. So that's what we've got. We brought where that pinch weld would normally be.
Yeah.
We brought that in, flattened that out, and then the bumper, of course, follows that around, does the same thing.
I mean, at a certain point, what this thing's capable of, like, that's an aero trick too. This would probably help with aero.
Right.
Yeah.
And on the front side, you know, speaking of that, so it doesn't just open up. If you crawled all the way under there, you would see that it angles back up and then it connects above the rear end at about a 45-degree angle. Okay. So any air that's under there should get pushed down and out. You know, it's not going to get trapped in here at all. It's sealed tight with foam, just like we've got around here.
Okay.
All the way up in the front as well. And then from here, you can also see these big Brembos, carbon ceramic brakes all the way around.
Brakes.
Yeah.
That's big boy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There. And 9-inch Ford rear end with a fabricated housing.
Right. Yep.
Transmission, what are you running?
It's American Powertrain T56.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be able to roll gears in this car,
carbon
right?
Carbon drive shaft. I think it's a 3 3/4-inch carbon drive shaft.
Well, a lot of these cars were automatic originally.
Right. They were.
Okay.
And you know, again, talking with the owner early in the build process, part of what they wanted was the enjoyment that comes from driving a manual.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
That's that user interface,
it's
right?
It's just fun.
And there's faster ways to shift a car, but it's not as fun.
Right. And if you're in a race car, like if you're not trying to, they're not trying to necessarily be the fastest there is.
Yeah, and you're not going fender to fender with another car.
Right. There's having fun.
Yeah.
And there's nothing for me more fun than automatics. You know, the joke. You know, I remember when we were in high school, we wanted to feel cool, like we had a manual, so you'd push it into neutral at a stop sign, let it roll back, and then hit drive.
You had to fake it, right?
Right. You know, here, we put the manual transmission in, and you know, it's going to be a blast. You know, we haven't been able to really punch it on this thing because we finished it up right before SEMA.
Yeah.
Did some test drives. Everything's cool. Handles like a dream, but really haven't gotten into it yet. So I'm looking forward we get back to Wisconsin, put some PPF on this thing.
Well, it's going to be different too because the power delivery on something like this is a little bit different, right? It's going to be a new feeling.
It is. It is. You know, just the other day, while pulling it in here, honestly, you know, it's one of those where, like, all right, let give it a little bit, you know, make some noise a little bit, and that, you know, that turbo, it gives me goosebumps, you know, like we hit it a little bit, and it, you know, spooled up, and you get that whoop, 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 like, oh yeah, and then everybody, of course, you know,
it's a whole different thing.
Then they see that it's a V6, and you know, I think that's gonna be a lot of fun for them when they get this car out on the road.
That's kind of my favorite part. You guys kept the soul of the car with that, you know, like that's an iconic thing with these cars. Yeah.
CO2 over here, so that controls the wastegates.
Okay, I was going to ask you guys have tanks, so this is air jacks.
Yeah, nitrogen and CO2 for the wastegates. Yeah, and that was something that Kenny was kind of adamant about, is the controllability of being able to dial it to right where you want it to be.
At that power level, you got to have that accuracy.
Right.
You know,
right.
You don't want to be messing with that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And we do have, you know, still back seat in this car. You know, the way we design the seats, they can fold forward.
Okay.
And they have full intentions of like driving this thing with the kids.
Yeah, you could. Why not, right?
Seriously, the you know, Mom, Dad, and the kids, they plan on driving this thing just like that, and they're so stoked, so excited to get it back home.
So you've probably been talking about this thing all day. What's one part on this car that nobody asks about, but you know it's there and you've been wanting to point it out or talk about?
So Tuesday, Wednesday, we had this down on the ground.
Okay.
Last night we put it up on air jacks.
Okay.
That's kind of the one. That's why we did it. Right? Because you don't know it's there. You would never know. Right? They're
well, it's a ton of work to get that whole system integrated.
Oh man, it was a lot.
Different level, right?
It was a lot.
Because in a race car, all that stuff can be exposed.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You
Bad,
have the hoses
whatever.
wherever. Here, you know, we needed to make it look good. So the in the rear, they're hidden by the quarter panel covers, but in the front, we've got kick panels that actually are the air jack support tube. So if you look in there, it's kind of rounded, and that's what that is. Is the air jack is going up into there, but it just looks like a kick panel for the you know, for a speaker or something. But there's not actually speakers in there. It's an air jack.
You guys did a great job. Packaging is always like a big part of a build, right?
Yeah.
And the more things a customer has that they want,
right? Yeah.
the car doesn't get any bigger.
Right. And then you know, so the underside of the car needs to be as pretty as the top side.
Right. Yeah.
And the interior needs to be just immaculate.
Yeah.
But we needed to get nitrogen lines, air jack lines, the batteries back here, the amps back here, the e-brakes back here, the fuel tank, fuel lines, all of that all has to run through the body. And what we did is we built a false floor. So there's another thing that, you know, nobody sees unless you talk about it.
Right?
So if I bring you around here quick. So, you know, it just looks like a really nice smooth floor. In actuality, this unbolts and would lift up, and there's a big tray that runs through the seat riser all the way through the back. This is another panel that covers part of where that's coming through. This rocker piece that just looks like the rocker, that if you took this sill off and you took these pieces off here, this whole rocker would come off, and there's all wiring, there's air jack plumbing that's all running through here. So we raised that stuff up to give us room to run all of that.
There's so many systems on this car that you had to create your own space, right? For all of that.
Right.
Wow.
You know, and on this one, so the body does separate from the chassis.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the other cars we do where we unibody it, it's belly pan, everything's super smooth. What we didn't want is to crawl under here and be able to see fuel line and wires and air jack hoses.
It has to go somewhere, right? But also that keeps it, you know, away from, you know, road debris and rocks and stuff. It looks like the rockers are all dialed in. You guys have like a whole different panel turning down under the rocker.
A rocker cover right here that goes down to the chassis, and you know, it was one of those things where we're looking at the pinch weld down here, and it just looks ugly. So
it's an unfinished
got rid
part,
of that
right?
and made these aluminum pieces that cover those rockers there.
And then anyone that's ever gotten into a GM car, they remember this, but just a little touch of carbon.
Just a little bit. You bet.
Still use a key?
Yes.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that. Very cool. Well, thank you. I mean, this thing stands out. Like you said, like the color choice actually drew me in.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of cool to see not a black GNX.
Right.
And then that had a V6.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then I saw, okay, it's a Ringbrothers build. It's going to have a million other touches that you have to ask about. You know?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. You know, obviously we couldn't paint this car green or something that completely, you know.
You can do whatever you want.
I suppose we could. We wouldn't. You know, it's not going to be a yellow Grand National.
Yeah.
But we did want to be different.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's predictable it's going to be black. We wanted to be a little bit different, and first and foremost, the owner wanted to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
With it, so.
And all those cars, you know, they get kind of that legendary status because they were all black. They had that sinister look to them, you know. And you didn't get away from that. This car still has that feel. Right. Very cool. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we are here with Ricardo from BlazinRodz to talk about the wildest 70 Chevelle I've ever seen. I don't know, how much 70 Chevelle is left on this car? Probably not very much.
Like actually from the stock car?
Yeah.
See that little thin like inch and a half piece that's on the
A-pillar there? But that's still been modified on that piece.
Yeah, it's the drip rails are cut off of it, so.
Okay.
But that is still original metal.
Well, but so that being said, it's still recognizable as a 70 Chevelle.
Correct.
You know, you walk up onto this car, you know what it is, but it's also so extreme and wild, and that's why there's a crowd around this thing the whole day, which is awesome. I mean, you guys knocked it out of the park with just taking stuff to the next level. So there's a lot of stuff on this car that is like what I would say the new way of building hot rods, the new way of building custom cars. You guys integrated like a ton of like technology and modern manufacturing processes, and it shows. This thing stands out. It's so different than like any other hand-built car that you see here. So let's talk about like first of all, what's your favorite part on the car? I know it's hard to choose one.
Yeah, it's very hard
to choose. It's like having a
choose.
favorite kid, right?
It's very hard to choose. I mean, the whole aspect behind the car and like the whole idea behind the car was, you know, we all loved American muscle cars, right? But we wanted to change the game. You know, there's nothing wrong with anything that anybody's building here. It's just we just all felt there needed to be a new wave of things. Yeah. There's so much new technology that's available that's not being used. Yeah. And we were like, okay, we really want to use that. Yeah. So the idea was we want to build the 70 Chevelle, but we wanted the power to be of a drag car. So we have pretty much a pro mod engine in this thing.
Yeah, that's insane.
And then we wanted like the handling of a GT car. So, and GT cars are wide body, you know, they got the stance on them. So we came up with this idea with this wide body. And for the interior, we didn't want you to be like you're in the 70s, right? So we modernized it with, you know, with the whole 3D printed interior, and we wanted you to feel like your modern day sports car. So that's what the idea was.
The interior for me, obviously this is wild, and I saw this car without the body, it's like a sculpture. And then I saw the interior and I could tell this is influenced by like modern exotics, basically. Yep. Like the steering wheel almost feels Bugatti-esque, right?
It's an Audi R8 steering wheel.
Okay, so Volkswagen Group product.
Right.
But yeah, so it's basically you took the best of all the worlds and then like the modern technology to manufacturing things, 3D printing. That's kind of what needs to happen in this industry, right? Somebody like you guys needs to come in and push the boundaries to get away from some of the hand-built cars, which there's a lot of craftsmanship in those cars and the old school way of doing things.
Like, don't get me wrong, the whole body is still old school coach built. Okay. You know, there's certain things that are just not there yet, and that's a huge one that's not there, and I don't ever think it will be.
Well, it's still a craft, right? It's an art form, right?
Exactly.
Like even if you can reproduce it with the machine, which they do have these pretty cool 3D printed metal shaping machines, but
we actually did use it though.
Really?
Yeah, we used it for the fire.
And make the part, put a hand on it. And then that eliminates a lot of the trial and error too when you're like hand fitting stuff. Inevitably though, it is a mechanical part though, right? It needs some fine tuning here and there.
Yeah, I mean it's not like it's not like when Waylon designs it in the computer and then we get the part and we bolt it on, okay, it fits. Like it definitely needs, you definitely still have to have a craft at it. You definitely have.
You need to know how to put a to hand build the car.
And you still got to be an artist too.
Yeah.
You can't just design something. Anybody can put something in the computer and print it out, but if you don't have the style points to stuff, you know, it's still not going to be.
That's where this car excels, right? Because it's like you said, like you got that power level. Usually you see a car with that power level, it doesn't have too many styling elements. It's race car. It's like basically form,
Draw.
you know, form follows function on a car like that. But you guys made it all look good.
Yeah, so we really, what we try to do is we didn't want to steer too far away from the Chevelle, right? Even though it's so extreme.
Yeah.
But their style points are still there. But we still ran, you know, the dual headlights, even though we took one out and used that as the intake. If you look at the front bumper, from this point down to this point is still that stock Chevelle bumper.
Yeah, so it has the profile that you know in your head.
There.
Right, okay.
It's still there, but you know, we just added things to it, modified it to make it more aggressive. But if you really look at, if you put a stock Chevelle side by side, the bumper lines still represent that 70 Chevelle.
Yeah, and that's what draws people in, because it's that familiar shape that brings them in, but there's so much else going on. There's so much work going into it. Let's talk just like basically ground up, like the chassis. The chassis in itself on this thing is just incredible.
So it did start out, before we knew how extreme we were gonna go with this, we started with an Art Morrison frame.
Okay.
And then we all sat down and got this idea of this car, and we're like, okay, we really have to beef this up. We really have to modify things to make it handle the power.
Okay.
So the whole front end is redone on this chassis. The only thing that's pretty much left is the actual frame rails underneath the car.
Okay.
But from like the firewall forward's all redone, and from the behind the seats back is pretty much redone.
Okay.
We moved the motor back about 15 and a half inches.
Wow.
Because usually the Chevelle, like off the window, when you take like the cowl off, you know, there's almost a foot.
Well, the cowl
there.
itself is usually pretty big, and it's ugly too. You know? It's like
how do you
it's
can't
not a
hide
good looking
that
part of the car, right?
So yeah, the motor is moved back. The geometry up front is off a C7 Corvette.
Okay.
The rear geometry is off of Gen 5 Camaro. Okay. In the back. It has the engine 540 big block, twin turbo.
Oh my gosh.
Precision turbos, 83, 85 next gens. It's 2,800 horsepower.
So, okay. So traction obviously is not like you need a tall tire slick basically to put that down.
But the car has full traction control.
Oh, okay. So there you go. So you're integrating more modern technology to be able to actually use some of this power. Usually when you get to that 1,000 horsepower level, anything above that is usually bragging rights, unless
track formula.
Okay.
And basically you take your shifter out, we made a mount on top of the transmission, and it runs all through the Motec, and it does like 3 millisecond shifts on there. So you basically clutch in, paddle first gear, let clutch out, go for it, and just bang gears all the up, down.
So it's going to drive like a modern exotic, basically, with that shifting that people are used to now and the instantaneous reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then full carbon fiber drive shaft in the car. Now, we took like the normal, what you would have like on the Gen 5 Camaro rear end. We eliminated that. We made our own billet housing back there. Okay. We did a TubeWorks 9-inch rear end, so basically the same rear end that you find in a trophy truck. Okay. And then we needed axles, right? So we're like, we don't want to snap axles. So it has Series 30s axles in it. So same thing you'll find like on an Ultra 4.
Yeah. Well, and that stuff takes abuse at a high power level, but with a lot of weight, on this car, it probably doesn't weigh anything close to what a trophy truck weighs, but also like 4 times the power of a trophy truck. Right. So, okay.
Yeah, we just try to do everything to the extreme as possible.
It's extreme.
Yeah, not too.
And then, okay, so like this is not a normal roll cage. Tell me about what's going on with the cage.
So, underneath all the interior, there is a normal roll cage like you'd find in your.
Okay, like a tube.
Yeah, there's all tube structure in there.
Okay.
But the style points that we wanted to grasp were like, man, we don't want just like tubes coming through here. You know what I mean? So we're like,
I like how everything is just like, oh, that's not good enough. We could do anything we want.
We have to change
it. That's crazy.
So we had Waylon scan the interior, and he built the roll cage, and we came up with this idea, like, let's make these parts billet. Like, let's make a billet A pillar.
Yeah.
Let's make a billet B pillar.
I love that.
So we have billet A pillars, billet B pillars. The V bar in the back is billet. The harness bar is billet. The door bars are billet.
Okay. Yeah, that just adds a whole different look. That's something like, there's a lot of stuff on this car that you could easily be, I've never seen this before, I've never seen this before, I've never seen this before, which is what draws people in, because even to stand out in a place like this,
It's hard.
it's hard, right? But you guys, like, you're having no problem doing that with this car. I mean, kudos to you guys, because I love the fresh view on how to build a car, because there is kind of a formula now for, like, especially like muscle cars. It's getting into like not too many people are pushing the boundaries and trying new things, and sometimes it's just a refined version over and over again of the same car. But something like this stands out because everything is different, everything is unique. Like all this ductwork, this is not something you normally see on a muscle car, right? I mean, and it's all carbon fiber, which is like, that's the rage now, right? Like if you don't have carbon fiber all over your car, like, what are you doing, right? But so, okay, and are you gonna run a hood on this thing?
So the design of it was to never run a hood, right? But the car, if someone wants to buy it, let's just say, right? We didn't steer away from the option of later on having to redesign things to put a hood. In our back of our minds, we're like, if we ever want to put on it, we put the provisions to have run a hood. So you have the hood pins there, and then with the inner fenders, we already have where the hood pin would go. And
some of this stuff too, like the shapes you have here. So a lot of this reminds me of like, I've seen people like, put into like maybe AI or something, like what is the ideal structure? And it almost always looks organic. It looks like how your bones and sinews would look, So it's really cool because like the strongest shape isn't always just a hard edges and normal. It's always flowing. It looks organic. It draws your eye. And there's something like, the car itself, a 70, doesn't have any of that, right? It's like pretty, it's penciled. Like somebody literally drew this car on graph paper and they nailed it. It has a vibe. But then to integrate all this, it just gets real exotic looking. I love that.
Yeah, and so since we were talking about 3D printing, right? The whole front end of this car is 3D printed. The grille's 3D printed, the front bumper's 3D printed. All the carbon pieces underneath is all a 3D print and then wet laid up in carbon fiber.
Oh, wow.
All the ducts are 3D printed, carbon overlay.
Oh, wow.
The inner fenders, those are all 3D printed.
Okay.
And that's in a resin, right? But we took it even further. The exhaust that's on here, the whole downpipe into the wastegate, that's all 3D printed stainless.
Stainless, okay. So yeah, that's the other thing, is using like kind of like modern materials too, and then you have these files too, right? So like, heaven forbid something happens, somebody backs into this or drops something on it or whatever. It's not like, oh, you have to like go make one by hand and it's going to take 2 weeks again, right? You have the files ready to go. It's reproducible. And I guess, so sometimes people ask like, okay, like, an extreme car like this, some of these ideas eventually are going to trickle down. You're going to start seeing these on like other cars, right? Cars,
yeah.
So that's
it's
super
just like
cool.
I just feel like that's a compliment.
It is a compliment, right? It's like, okay, like you put something out there that is so new and fresh that it's going to be adopted. And in the muscle car world, it's really hard to do that. But it's awesome. You guys have a fresh outlook on it. Some of the wild stuff about the car, like the rear end's really wild too. So you guys still kept like the shape of a 70 taillight, right? But that's about it, right?
Yeah, so the whole back, we can go back there and check that out.
Yeah, let's go check it out.
So we're here in the back of the car. The whole rear bumper, that's a 3D printed rear bumper. It still has the same style 70 taillights.
Yeah.
The shape of it is still the 70.
Yeah.
Right? So another thing that we did was, okay, want this car to look like a GT car, right?
Yeah.
So on the back of GT cars, you see these wild diffusers.
Always, right? And it's function.
Yeah,
type
it's a
stuff,
functional thing. So we're like, okay, let's put a diffuser in the back. So we decided, let's just get a piece of billet. So now that is a solid chunk of billet we machined as a diffuser. But we're like, we don't want to put the fuel cell in the trunk. We want you to still have a trunk in the car.
Okay.
So what we did is we hollowed out the center. So now your rear diffuser is your fuel cell.
Oh my gosh. Well, so this started as a solid chunk, and then some of it's 3D printed. So you're using like reductive machining, and then additive processes as well.
Correct.
So like everything
that's available to use in all industries, we try to use that on this car.
I love that. Yeah, because then you don't limit yourself, right?
No.
You're just going to do a no compromise situation at that point, right? And I love the the functionality too. Like it is still a car. So there is like functional pieces that you need access to, right? The battery and stuff. And eventually, like if you wanted to, you could close all this out. It's all clean and tidy.
We actually have a full paneled trunk for the car. and there's a sound system in the car too that goes up in there. But because we are in the Dynamat booth, we tried to display this in the best way we could. So we came up with this idea to Dynamat the trunk, and then with their foam that they have, like their insulation foam, we just put our business name, our sponsors, everyone who worked on the car with us.
Cool.
You know, so
try to
change.
added touch. Yeah, and obviously the name Doughboy, I think everyone kind of knows why.
Right?
Obviously something like this is not cheap, right?
Exactly.
Very cool. Let's talk.
And then like the Doughboy name, it's everything you see, right? That's built something like this. Someone they have a really dark, demonic name for it, right? Like
yeah.
Like Sinister or something like that. Like, why do people do that? Like, just make something fun. Like, make it enjoy. Like,
I love it.
Like, it doesn't always gotta be.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, like the car itself, like it has its own personality, you know. So like, it makes it fun. And these are cameras.
Yeah. So those cameras there. If you notice on the car, there's no side mirrors.
Okay.
So when you turn your turn signal on, the left camera goes on.
Okay. So you're getting that full panoramic view.
So you can see this whole area right here, and it'll display up on the Motec screen.
Okay, and then some of this stuff, like all this, basically, like this shape is kind of what lets you know it's a 70, but all this is just completely wild and just completely gone through. And then everything, like that full exhaust piece being the rocker is just so different than what you would normally see.
Right.
And the interior. Like the interior is just as crazy as the rest of the car. And it's like, this is like, reminds me of just a modern like hypercar, basically, right?
It looks like it would be something that came out today.
Exactly, yeah, and that's hard to do with that OEM feel. Like a lot of the finishing touches, all the bezels and stuff that you guys got, it doesn't look, you know, it doesn't look as much like some of the custom interiors. It almost looks like a over-the-top OEM interior.
Right. Yeah, and we wanted to keep it like super sleek in there. So like we eliminated a lot of the switches that normally would be on your dash.
Okay.
The only thing in there now is your AC and your window switches.
And there's a lot on the steering wheel.
And everything else is on your steering wheel. So you have your ignition, your start button, your different modes. So if you want to go no boost and have 1,000 horsepower, you can do that. If you want all the beans at 2,800, you can do that. Your drive height select. So basically the front end is on a hydraulic coilover.
Okay.
So you can lift up the front.
Very
your
cool.
turn signals on there. Your reverse lockouts on there. Your rolling anti-lag is on there.
Oh, wow.
Your headlights are on there.
So you just have everything like at your feet. That's like Formula One, right?
Yeah.
It just trickles down. And then wheels and tires?
So wheel and tires, those are compression wheels.
Okay.
That's actually our sister company.
Okay.
And for tires, we're running a Michelin tire. We have a 345
Yeah,
in
these
the
are
rear.
some wild sizing here.
345 and a 325.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to get that in the back of a car most of the times, but
it's difficult to tuck that.
Yeah, and then like, you know, full turning capacity and everything on it. Yeah, you guys did a lot of, I think that's one of the other advantages of the modern process you're using in CAD. You can probably cycle suspension before you put a fender on it and see exactly where everything needs to hit.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is.
So like right now, when it's, right now we have it sitting really low for the show, just for like aesthetics wise.
Sure, yeah. So that
but normal ride height would be about 1.5 inches to 2 inches taller than what it is. And then you still have your lift going up.
Okay.
Because when you really look at a GT car, there is space above the tires.
Yeah.
You know, like, you gotta have it.
Yeah. Well, the suspension has to work, right? It's still a
work.
functioning piece of machinery, right? It's like, this is art, but this thing probably is more capable than, you know, like a lot of things you could spend all your dough on for sure.
And the whole bottom of the car is all aeroed. It's all flat bottom carbon. Underneath the front skid plate, the front splitter up front, there's a carbon like air duct under there. So what happens is, as the dirty air goes underneath the car, it cleans it, like sucks it up into these carbon ducts that go underneath the engine and spits it out right there behind the front tires.
So it's all functional. AC?
Yep, AC, RestoMods air.
Everything.
Yeah, you gotta be comfortable, you know?
Yeah, you gotta be able to, you can't look this good and not have climate control, right? That's
and then
crazy,
the seats are out of a G80 M3.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good. I mean, all carbon backed and everything. It just fits everything. There's some stuff like that too that you could probably design and engineer your own seat and stuff. But this thing,
BMW spent millions of dollars making that seat. So
there is stuff like seat stuff, and like there's somebody spent so much money on it, and it looks perfect in it. I love it. All the flush mounted glass, all this too, all this trim, like just having it coated. You know, it just looks right. It's still like this whole area. That's the cool thing about a lot of these muscle cars. Can roll everything down, and it's like that complete see-through into. It showcases the interior so well. You can see in this car too, like because of the setback, the whole seating position is just in a
way
different
back.
place than a
It's
Chevelle should be.
Yeah,
right?
usually your Chevelle seat's like.
Yeah, and the steering wheel's like here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all moved back. Like I said, we had to move the, we moved the motor back 15 inches. So when you sit in the car, right, it's like it looks so far away from you now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like you're still in a good relationship to the engine, but everything's like center of gravity is way better. This is so cool. All right, well, I could probably just ask you a million questions, and probably everyone in the show has already. If there is one thing that nobody's asked you about in this car, that you would point out, like that no one ever sees, or that you guys spent a lot of time, or was challenging, or a hard decision to make, kind of what would that be?
I would say, I mean, everything on this car was difficult to do. I mean, there was nothing easy about this. I think a lot of people are misleaded by it being a steel wide body car, because people are going to look at this, it's probably fiberglass.
Yeah.
But it is all steel wide body. It's just hard to say because the underneath of the car to me looks 10 times better than the car looks outside.
Well, that's the part you poured over, right?
Yeah.
It was like all the attention to detail to make it work at this level.
Like underneath the fenders, like on the front passenger side corner, there's this big billet dry sump tank that we machined in there. It's like you don't get to see all that. You don't get to see all that detail that's in there.
Right. Well, and that's why I appreciate that you guys did take that photo shoot of the chassis and the engine, because that was what caught my eye initially. I had seen you guys tease kind of parts and pieces of the car, and then I saw that, and then now to see it all together is just incredible.
Right.
You guys are changing the game, man. I love that you can come here and something can stand out so much, and like have everything just like you guys didn't miss anything. Like the engine is insane, the chassis is insane, the body, and then all the unique parts and the design. That's a big thing too. Is like you can have the recipe, but you don't cook it right. And
exactly.
It's just not going to come out good, right? Amazing. All right, we talked a little bit about Doughboy. Now we're on the Sangria. I love the names of your cars, like you said, something fun, right? And then this one, it's obvious why, right? So this thing, there's not a lot to say about it. That's not fully exposed, right? Full carbon body.
Yep, full carbon body.
Okay, so you guys went over the top. Basically, this is no Hellcat. This is like a big dog direct connect engine, right?
So this engine is from Direct Connection.
Okay.
I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, they released this 1,500 horsepower crate engine, and it never really came about. It they released it that they were going to do it, but I felt like it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
So I called DSR. I talked to Chad Ozier over there, and I said, "Hey man, I'm doing these cars. What do you got? Like, what's something that we can do on this thing?" And he's like, "Well, there was talks about doing this 1,500. We were not sure if we're doing it, this and that." And he's like, "Well, we'll be in contact, and they had a 1,200, which we were going to originally do.
They have some of those variations too, like the Elephant was really cool. It was hard to get,
Yeah, and they're still hard to get.
Yeah.
And so, just being in contact with him, he's like, "Look," I got engine number 1.
Okay.
1,500 one.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Is it possible to get that?" And he's like, "Anything's possible, but we got to talk to the team and see if we can let it go." So, I ended up talking to him, and we ended up acquiring it. So we got it. So that's really special about this car.
Yeah.
Not only that's full carbon,
right?
It's a factory 1,500 horsepower engine from Dodge DSR.
Crazy.
It's on the valve covers. You have SN01.
Yeah.
It comes with a build plaque up front.
That's so special.
That's all serial numbered.
Yeah.
This car too. There's a lot of little aspects that are 3D printed, like the whole inside engine cover, that's all 3D printed.
Okay.
The whole grille assembly, that's all 3D printed. And then we want to change it up. We want to add a little bit modern touch to it. So we took from the Challenger, we took the headlights from the Challenger.
And it's got that induction inlet right there. Very cool.
So it has that there.
And the dimensions of this car are mostly 70 Charger, right?
Yeah,
it's basically dimensionally.
Yeah, it's to the T.
Okay, but full carbon.
Yes, but full carbon.
And
sitting
then,
on a Roadster Shop chassis.
Okay.
They're Fast Track Elite Series chassis, so it has all the billet suspension, independent rear suspension.
Okay, so full independent rear suspension. Okay. So then this thing, weight-wise, does the carbon make a difference, or is it because
it's about 450 to 500 pounds lighter than.
That's significant because these cars actually not that heavy originally in steel.
Right.
They're like big empty hollow shells. And then a lot of times what I see is when you put, especially an IRS road strap chassis, you're adding weight, but you're getting it down right where you want it.
Exactly.
You know, down center of gravity is low. And then obviously the interior is all dialed in. Like this thing is insanely nice on the inside. I can't get over the carbon body. And what was the process? You guys sprayed over this like a candy clear?
Yeah.
How did you get this
So
finished?
what you first do is, so it was just a raw carbon body, and then we actually sprayed your first coat of clear coat on that, right?
Okay.
So you use your clear coat as your primer, so you can block the clear to get the body as straight as you can.
Okay.
And then after that, resprayed clear again, and then 4 coats of candy clear.
Okay.
And then clear on top of it again.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Yeah, because you think with carbon, there's no body work. Like there's no, you know.
And that's a tough thing, you know, because your layup and your mounting it has to be perfect.
Right. That's where all the prep goes into.
You know, there's no fixing it. There's nothing to fix after. Once it's on.
It's on.
It's on. That's
yeah.
it. There's no.
But I mean, it's so cool because it's like you guys still like managed to achieve a car that has the feel of a painted finished car, but also shows off the exposed carbon. All right. And then a 70 Charger, it's like just such a good looking car.
Yeah.
They have a presence
It's iconic,
to them, right?
you know?
Yeah. They have a presence to them. There's a reason they were in all the movies back in the day and everything. But those cars from the factory, all the fit and finish is just not great on these cars, you know?
I know.
They didn't perform very well. I'm sure this thing is just head and shoulders above anything. Let's talk about, so what transmission's in it?
So it's a Dodge transmission, but it's from Pure. So it's the 8HPZ or something like that it's called. So it states true, it's built for this setup.
Okay, perfect.
It came all from a direct connection as a unit.
And they had the ECU and everything programmed for everything?
Yep, they had everything all set up. So it was actually a pretty transition. It was just pretty much plug and play for us, which was nice.
Wildly different than like the exotic engine setup in the other car, but still a crazy horsepower number.
Yeah, still 1,500 horsepower, you know?
Yeah.
Especially from a factory engine, it's pretty nuts.
It's insane. And it's like, it's probably, you know, like this is going to be, sometimes you get into that higher horsepower level and the engines require a lot more maintenance. You know, this is probably going to be fairly low maintenance on this engine.
And there's a warranty.
Yeah, that's just, you can't get that. You go into cars at that power level, the warranty, and you usually have to spend $1 million, $2 million. You know, you get into the hypercar world at that power level. And then let's talk about so you have some stuff that's still like all the flush mount glass and then getting rid of the drip rails, but these shapes are all like really good from Dodge.
Yeah, those are OEM.
Okay.
OEM Dodge parts. You know?
guys just dialed in the finishes on
we just wanted to bring in, you know, a little bit of modern, but because the body, there's only so much you can do because it's a 1970. It still has all the body lines from it.
Right.
And to me, they're not ugly.
No.
So it's like I just dressed up what it originally had.
That's what Dodge had going for them too. Like this door handle, it looks right. You know, although it's like a protruding thing that people think is dated now. I mean, it looks right on this car.
I like it because it just feels real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like you still get that original muscle car feel to it.
And that's a big thing because like that's what gives these cars so much appeal is that soul they have to them, and it's just little tactile things like the way you get into a car, right? It's how you interface with it. And going down to that, the interface, like how an interior feels, this looks like you guys used like some real high-end stuff. These like carbon Sparco seats, and then a fully machined steering wheel with like premium leather wrapped, everything's matched. That console is really nice. You integrated like a stock
so the whole
Dodge shifter.
Yeah, so the whole interior was done by Avant-Garde.
Okay, yeah, they do great work.
Palm City, Florida.
Okay.
I let kind of Jeremy run free on this car, just kind of like, hey, you see what's here, you know, compliment it.
Okay.
And he nailed it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of carbon inside the car. You know, the carbon back seats. There's carbon on the door panels, in the dash, and it's a matte carbon. So we needed to figure out, okay, how do we bring that matte carbon somewhere on the outside?
Okay.
So in the engine bay, there's those matte carbon pieces. Because some people are like, why is there matte carbon here? But
perfect.
It just ties the outside to the inside.
Yeah, that's that continuity. You have to be an artist to know how to have the eye to do it. Wheels and tires.
Same sister company, compression wheels.
And these are carbon barrel?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Yeah, that is like the newest thing, right? Is like you have to have carbon wheels now, right? And then I always love, you know, like the fuel cap. Like that's really cool. Like when you see a Charger, you know, you expect to see that fuel cap.
Yeah, so it's OEM, like an OEM fuel cap. We just, you know, Cerakote it, put our touch on it to make it,
okay,
you know, modern.
I love it. And then all this, like everything's still carbon. All these, like the bumper, everything.
And then the exhaust tips, that's 3D printed.
Oh,
3D printed exhaust tips on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this thing's...
Okay, so this is like an extended version. So it has the bumper shape, but it rolls all the way down.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's very cool. And then the iconic tail light shape, you know, same thing. Coated some OEM style stuff, OEM plus kind of look.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really brings the car into the modern, you know, some of that original chrome, sometimes it was like plasticky looking on some of these pieces, you know?
Yeah, so we just took those parts out, you know, stripped them down, Cerakoted them to give it like, it just gives it that RestoMod look to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, like with these cars, it's easy, like a 70 Charger, such a big car already.
They're long.
It already has a presence. The overhangs are really long on these cars. So all these little touches, like I even see a lot of times the tendency is to get rid of this. And sometimes what happens is the overhangs get even more exaggerated when you get rid of that.
Eliminated.
You know? Yeah, very cool.
There's, like I said, it took a 1970 Charger and just turned it into carbon. That was the aspect of this car.
So
not
cool.
to pull too much away from it.
Sure. Yeah, and well, I mean, that's such a huge thing in itself.
Yeah.
Like it's carbon,
Exactly.
you know, like that stands alone. You don't need to like do all the other stuff because it's like you walk up to the car and you're like, oh, like sometimes you see a carbon hood or carbon trunk, and then you look at the roof, the quarters, it's the whole car, you know.
Exactly.
And so, is there a steel substructure in this thing?
Yes, so it's still the original steel substructure inside.
Okay, perfect. So,
and then the color, the Sangria color. So obviously we're in the Hemmings booth. The car is for sale on Hemmings.
Okay.
But I wanted this car to attract men and women because I feel like there's a lot of cars out there that are just built towar's a
they are.
towards
They're
a guy.
very masculine, like,
towards a guy.
tough guy
So
car,
I needed to find something that was right in between. Like how can we get the girl that's walking by to be like, oh my God, I like that color. I like that car.
Yeah.
Like it can go either way.
Well, and that helps too because the guy that's wanting to buy it,
or his wife wants the car.
His wife want it too.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Smart.
Because hey, don't you like the color on this?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and that's the thing too, is building a car for everyone, because it's not just men that are into cars, you know. We just talked to a young girl that has a GNX built, and it's like, you know, she's carrying the torch at a young age, and a female.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see that you thought about that.
Yeah,
you know, it's actually something that you were thinking about.
You know, it's not. It's for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we try to do for this car.
Well, it seems like everybody likes it, so
Yeah,
I think you nailed it. Awesome. Well, thank you for talking about this one too.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Cool car.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right, guys, we're outdoors.
We're outside.
We're out where cars are doing car things.
Yeah.
Actually, they're doing car things behind our cameraman. Jeremy, walk forward here.
Just like that.
So we're with Cameron from SpeedTech. And SpeedTech is not like your normal suspension company where they have a car sitting only on display. They have cars out here racing in the Optimal Ultimate Street Car Challenge.
Yep.
It was quicker for you to tell us the cars that didn't have your guys' suspension products on that are out here.
Yeah.
It just shows you how competitive that product is. And there's a lot of cool stuff. So there's the usual suspects in the performance handling game, Camaros, first gen, second gen, third gen. But then you said there's a Blazer here.
Yeah, we'll end with that Blazer, because when you see this 4,500 pound Blazer out ripping the way it does, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got this third gen right here. It's running about a 750 horsepower naturally aspirated Scoggin Dickey engine.
Okay.
It's on our extreme subframe with our independent rear.
Okay.
And it's got the DCT transmission that shifts at like milliseconds.
Race car stuff.
Race car stuff. So I'll tell you what, somewhere in Ohio, Mexico, we did a pull of about 140, faster than I think I've ever done a 140 pull in this car with that transmission. No lift shift. Just whap, whap, whap.
So it's awesome to see third gens out here. The wheelbase, the way these cars are, you know, they kind of lend themselves to this, right? So it was a natural progression from, you know, the genesis of pro touring with your first gen Camaro. As this is it, right?
They
this
have a
is
little bit
today's-
of built-in aerodynamics, actually. You know, which, you know, brings it to this one. So Ryan's car, the '69 Camaro, he's one of the top drivers in this series. He's sitting in like second place right now.
This is a beautiful car too.
Beautiful car. It's running our torque arm.
Okay.
In the near future, we're going to be doing some front suspension on this car.
Okay.
But same thing, it's an LS, 600-ish horsepower LS, true 3-pedal, 6-speed car.
Okay.
So he's doing the manual shifting.
Okay.
And he's a heck of a driver. He's out of the Pacific Northwest area.
Okay, cool.
So
torque arm on this.
Torque arm.
Nice.
Yep. So
Okay.
IRS. Jason's car, he's out of Ohio, torque arm.
Okay, so that normally would have been a torque arm car.
Normally was a torque arm car. Yeah, and it's kind of cool. He's probably got some race stuff here. So you're seeing real life race car stuff.
Yeah.
Storage for the night,
Yeah.
but you can actually see the IRS through this big old window.
How cool
back
is
here.
that? That's what people love to see. Like you said, a big old window. Check out the shocks right there.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
That is sick.
So then we're going to walk past a couple of these cars here. Do you ever see that guy on TikTok that does the speed tours?
Yeah.
He's like, speed tour.
Yeah.
I'm out of shape to do that. But so then we've got Rick's second gen here.
Okay.
He's running our Extreme front end.
Okay.
And when we talk about Extreme, that really refers to our geometry suspension.
Okay.
When we came out with it, we named it Extreme. So we're talking 315 wide front tires.
Huge front
over
sticky
30
tire.
degrees of steering.
Okay.
Dual power rack and pinion, and then he's got our torque arm as well.
And all that is under the stock fenders?
Under the stock outside fenders.
That's crazy. Yeah, so 315, like that's normally people struggle to get that in the back of a car.
Yeah. So we're able to run that all the way around.
Yeah, that's true race car. Like you say, Extreme. This is not like your casual autocross. These guys are competing. Yeah, this is serious business.
Well, and you can see through
they were built to use, and that says a lot.
It's
when
a
they're
testament.
running your suspension.
And that's something I like about the Optima series is they require them to be street legal. And for part of it, you actually have to do a road tour with it.
So you have to be able to drive this car on
You have
street.
to be able to drive it on street. So this is David Kruk's Super Bee.
Okay.
It's third gen Hemi swap.
Something different here.
Currently it's on QA1 suspension.
Okay.
But in the off season, he's going full Extreme with torque arm as well.
Okay. Is he going to do the full chassis you guys have?
No, he's just going to do subframe, torque arm.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, this is a big car, even just looking at a second gen next to it.
Yep.
Good?
You're good?
Okay, so a big car, but really probably not that heavy in all actuality, right? Okay.
Yeah, and he drives the heck out of this. When he built it the first time, he's got like 40,000 miles
Oh
on
my
it.
gosh.
So he like daily drives this car.
That's insane.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, that says a lot.
So we're super excited to have him join the team this year. And then right here we've got Brett's second gen.
This is a beautiful car.
Beautiful car, supercharged LS. Right now he's running our bolt-on front suspension, but
Okay.
he's going to be doing our subframe Extreme soon, and then he's got our torque arm as well.
Well, even with just bolt-on stuff, to be able to be out there and be competitive.
Yeah, it makes well, and you guys did it in that GTO.
It
You
changed
felt
the car.
difference.
It
you
changed
know?
the car. I
It's
mean-
a big difference.
Yeah, it made me want a stiffer chassis.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So then we have Efren's car. Now, most of his front end's actually carbon fiber. This one's a
Okay.
very extreme race car.
Yeah.
He's got that same Scoggin Dickey, like 750 horsepower. And if you come, I mean, we're talking, he's got carbon fiber
There's
seats.
carbon everywhere.
So
really getting the weight down on this thing.
weight down. And then he's got the IRS back here.
Okay.
He actually made a little peek window. You can see where the back seat was.
Okay.
But I mean, we're talking full cage, carbon fiber deck lid.
And this is on all your extreme stuff.
All of our extreme with our IRS. And now this one's actually running what we call our Extreme XS, which is a newer product for us.
Okay.
Which the XS it's made of a lighter weight blend of steel.
Okay.
And then it's got brake induction in it.
Oh, wow.
So I can show you actually.
So through the rails, actually, you're getting brake
through
cooling.
the rails. And so what he did is he's made these little intake tubes right here out of carbon fiber.
Okay.
And that goes straight into his brakes.
That's full-blown race car stuff.
Full-blown. In Nick's car, same thing. So he's running our Extreme XS.
Okay.
You can see these intakes that he's built here on the front end.
Okay. So that lends itself to the XS with the lighter weight to a guy who does care. He's doing all the carbon fiber parts. He cares about the weight.
And it's a 20% weight savings.
That's huge.
So Nick rebuilt this car. This is really his first event back. But carbon fenders, carbon hood, carbon nose. And then he went and taught himself how to do carbon fiber. And those are carbon fiber door skins too.
Oh, wow.
So normally a second gen Camaro door is like 78 pounds.
Yeah.
It weighs 10 pounds now.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
that's free horsepower, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. He's running an LSA in here.
Wow.
And so he's, 600 horsepower roughly, but
Yeah.
his wife Gigi's in the car right now. But same thing, you can see carbon fiber.
Yep. Just carbon fiber everywhere.
Everywhere. The seats.
That is so cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell the doors either. He's got the locks, the handles, everything.
Yeah, everything.
Wow.
It's got inner door panels. So this next one, when we built this car, he kind of set the world on fire a little bit. And these Mopar guys are going to come for me. This is a real AAR Cuda.
Oh, a real one. I walked by it and I thought, I like these stickers, and I didn't think too much of it. But
So this is a real AAR Cuda, and this is Ken, the owner of this car.
Hey, how you doing, Ken? Nice to meet you.
So these guys are with RestoMods, and we're doing a quick little video just walking around showing them some of our cars. So
thank you.
So make sure you hang out.
So this is a real AAR. Ken brought it to us and said, I want your IRS, I want the best extreme setup. So we did it. Now it's got the Red Eye Hellcat.
Oh my gosh.
He's done a little bit of work to it, so it's actually about 840 more.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see there's a lot of brace extra, the bars going through a fully
Down
caged
tubes.
car.
These Recaro seats.
Oh, that's so cool.
The throwback edition Recaro seats.
Wow.
Really tie the 70s vibe together.
You could tell this car has a lot of little custom touches.
Yeah.
Really well done at the floor covering, the pistol grip.
Yeah, so it's something cool with this. It's, as we know what the Hellcat logo, things like that. So a custom Cuda with the Red Eye.
With the Red Eye.
Because it's a Red Eye.
There you go.
So,
wow.
So Ken, he owns Classic Car Liquidators. They're a big dealer in Texas.
So he had access to a real AAR.
Yep, real AAR.
Wow.
So the last one here.
That's crazy.
So Hondo Miller, it's his Blazer. It's sitting on our full chassis.
Okay.
And this thing's like 4,500 pounds.
Okay.
And it looks like he's taking a nap in there right now. So
here we go.
I've been driving the wheels off this thing all day.
So with this Blazer here, I mean, he did so many custom things to it. The door, so the doors on the Blazer, if you remember right, they didn't have a frame rail around it.
Right, yeah.
So he pulled the frame rails in, and then look at that top there. He's got got the rag top.
That's
it's basically
so
like a 4x8.
Okay.
A piece of plywood, and it's a full rag top on it. But he's running a full stereo system. He's got a full back seat, but you can also see he's got a cage, but he's running a DCT transmission.
Oh, wow.
He's running all that kind of stuff. He's running I think it's a 3.2 liter Whipple.
Oh, wow.
On this LS, and so I mean he's putting
it's got the power.
serious power.
Yeah. Well, like at that weight and that power level, that's going to stress all the suspension too, right? So, so I'm sure he's got what he needs under.
Yeah. So it's running our full chassis, front to back, and
you guys, is this just like basically a C10 chassis that's shortened for a Blazer?
Similar, yeah.
Just a couple different things, body mounts and stuff.
Yeah, a couple different things. And so we have a full Blazer line as well on top of the C10.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's Team SpeedTech here at Optima. You know,
that's amazing.
We've got quite a few. You know, all in all, there's about like 75 cars. Okay. And 10 of them are SpeedTech.
And all you guys are like in the top positions too,
and
right?
in the vintage class, we're positioned like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9.
And some of these cars are running speeds that are almost the same as the modern class too.
Yeah. So Smitty, which I actually forgot to show you Smitty's car. We got one more.
Let's go back.
Smitty's actually number one.
Being the right side driver on that one.
He's tucked away here, so he's sitting first place. Not only in the vintage class, but overall.
Oh wow!
In this car. So I almost just ran into somebody. So
that says a lot.
So Smitty in the red jacket here. Hey, Smitty. Can I open your car? Can I open your car?
Which part?
That's really interesting here.
So, Chris also is running our Extreme XS, so the brake induction with the independent rear.
If you want to get one of those,
full carbon fiber. He's running a Haltech launch system.
Okay. Yeah, this is proper, clean, well-built race car.
Traction control, ABS, launch control, everything on here.
So, yeah, that explains like #1 overall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no compromise here. This
No
thing
compromise.
is just fully built.
And that's the way we designed it. Is look, we designed it this way, high performance. Make it work.
Yeah, well, and that's what differentiates you guys is that you're catering to the people that are really, really putting it to the test. There's bolt-on stuff that works really good, and you guys have that too.
Yeah.
And that's great for like a casual autocrosser.
Yep.
There's nothing casual about this car. This thing is extreme.
This thing's wicked. So we call this one the Angry Smurf.
Optima batteries, the ultimate power source.
Carbon fiber front. Yeah, the Angry Smurf. So whole front end's carbon fiber, doors, everything as well. So
wow.
So that's it. That's Team SpeedTech for you.
Man, yeah, right at the top.
Right at the top. So.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for showing us this. My next step, I want to see these cars run, so maybe we can arrange something.
Tomorrow. They'll be running tomorrow morning.
Okay, perfect.
So.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, man.
Thanks.